America fame and fortune. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, House of the Beast. With the end of the Dogwood Festival, Atlanta's 2003 Spring Carnival officially came to an end. In a community in Merita, a satellite city outside the ring, Martin Davis limped into the living room, his injured knee protesting with pain. He had just been in North America for a week and was still adapting. There were two yellowed posters on the bare wooden wall of the living room. One was the cover of a certain edition of Gone with the Wind. The other was the T-1000 in Terminator 2. Martin sat on the cloth sofa, the flying dust tickled his nose, and the sneeze that was about to burst was disintegrated by the hard object poking his butt. The rusty broken spring broke the discolored sponge and non-woven fabric. Martin cursed and moved his butt to sit on the other side. The damaged sponge cushion collapsed into a pit, as soft as a large balloon of Danny, covering the key position. He suddenly felt heartache. It was not only a balloon, but also a future that was hard to endure. Martin has been drifting in Beijing and Hangzhou for many years, honing his acting skills step by step, learning relevant skills, and even working as a stuntman for several years. In the end, he relied on his sharp brains to get some small supporting roles. At the beginning of the new year, Martin managed to get a supporting role that could rank among the top 5 in the crew. If the TV series is broadcast smoothly, he can work hard for another 5 or 6 years. Maybe he can get the title of veteran actor. Martin, who likes wine, found someone to celebrate wildly, drank a few self-made cocktails, and buried his head into oversized balloons to fall asleep. It is possible that he had difficulty breathing and fell asleep. When he woke up again, he came to Georgia in 2003. The predecessor Martin Davis was in a bad situation. His most recent job was a house maintenance worker. A week ago, he fell from the roof and broke his legs and head. Martin took advantage of the opportunity and became the 22-year-old Martin Davis. But part of his predecessor's memory in America, like a program that needs to be decoded, is temporarily running relatively slowly. This week, Martin spent most of his time getting familiar with the language and gradually being able to communicate normally. The door was opened from the outside, and Elena Carter, with her brown hair tied into a ponytail, came in with a key hooked, and her brother Harris Carter followed behind with a paper bag in his arms. Elena had delicate features, a tall figure, and a smooth face without the freckles common on white people. As soon as she entered the door, she said, "Is your brain okay? Can you speak normally?" Martin directly responded with his middle finger, as if he had done it countless times. "What do you know? A fall on the head doubles your IQ." Elena held her head high, and her whitish hoodie pushed up an exaggerated height. "Very good. Go find a job quickly. I don't want to deliver meals to lazy people for another week. I have 2 little kids to support. I can't afford to support you." During the week that Martin was injured, Elena's 4 siblings from next door came to deliver meals. According to Dr. Bill, your chances of recovery in a week are as high as 70%. Harris Carter put the paper bag on the low wooden table and said, "Free bread from the church. This time there is fried chicken." He turned around and left. Bill has been in business for 2 months and has cured 20 sheep and 35 cows without any mistakes. Before leaving, Harris turned around and said, "The bicycle belongs to me today. I'm going to tutor someone. You 2 idiots, take me to the vet." Martin cursed and took the paper bag without hesitation. Elena sat down next to Martin, touched her butt, and said, "You don't have shitty medical insurance. I don't have the money to take you to a regular clinic. Bill used to live on this street and didn't charge us for medical treatment." Martin took out the bread and ate it with fried chicken. Recalling the injury and the previous job, he said, "The house repairer owes me 2 weeks' salary, and this injury, I want to find a way to get more money." His pockets were cleaner than his face. He was extremely poor, and some thoughts jumped out automatically. "You'd better make more money." Elena grabbed a piece of bread and took a big bite. "I won't bother you, a poor bastard, about the food you ate this week and the free food and drinks you got in the past few months. But your bastard father hasn't paid the rent for this house for half a year. She glared, more fierce than the towering mountains. The most shitty thing is that your father kidnapped my mother this Monday and eloped in the name of true love and freedom. This reminded Martin. He searched his memory and sadly found that he was not as simple as a poor bastard. 1 month before Jack Davis took Emma Carter away, he asked his predecessor Martin Davis to borrow $6,000 in usury from the owner of the Beast House. The two patted their butts and happily went on a global trip, leaving 2 messes behind. Martin whispered, "The usury to be repaid in installments is about to be repaid for the first installment. Go and ask God for help." Elena shrugged. "There is no cheap sympathy between poor people." Martin shook his head and said, "God will not bless the poor. It will soon be the day for a review of the disability allowance this year. Jack has been collecting the allowance for my Uncle James all these years. Jack left behind a video, and now he has eloped with Emma, and the allowance is going to end." It was Elena's turn to be distressed and crazy. "How can we maintain this damn life without money?" Martin was about to ask a question. Then he remembered that this house belonged to James Carter and said, "Your uncle died 8 years ago because he ate the wrong flour. I'm sure that your brain is not broken." Elena didn't care at all and pointed to the grove behind the house. "James is buried there." She was worried a few days ago that Martin had fallen from a pauper to an idiot and a pauper, and that she would have to support another one in the future. At this moment, her mood was relieved, and she said lightly, "James is very lucky. He has been freed from the pain of being a pauper. The pit where he was buried was dug by you and me." Damn it. Martin had a headache. The poor man in hell had an incurable disease. Elena took out her cell phone with paint peeling off the shell, checked the time, stood up and said, "I should go to the mall to work as a temporary salesperson." Martin said casually, "Don't worry, you can always find a way out." Elena looked at the T-1000 poster and said, "Don't work for that damn troop for free." He never went back to the Merita troop after he became famous. Martin was thinking about solving the basic living problem first and replied, "Don't worry, I won't work for free." Because Martin Davis had a criminal record, Elena warned again before leaving, "Poor guy, if you can't do it, I will settle accounts with you. Count how many times you clapped with me and how much money you have to pay me. Also, I will call the Beast House Club and tell them that you are willing to work as a gigolo to pay off your debts. Think about why they are willing to lend you usury. Shouldn't you pay for clapping? I give you hundreds of millions of goods every time." Martin said as a matter of course. Elena raised her hands above her head and gave 2 middle fingers. Martin finished his bread and fried chicken. With food filling his stomach, his legs didn't seem to hurt anymore. He packed up and went out to stand in the sun, looking around. Merita is a small southern suburban town with a large area and few people. Even in Clayton, the rundown community where Martin lives, every single family wooden house has a small yard in front of it. In the yard next door, which was surrounded by broken barbed wire, a boy was digging a pit with cardboard at his feet. This was Elena's 10-year-old brother. An old Dodge pickup truck drove along the cracked road. There was a dancing man painted on the car, and the words Beast House were written below. The car stopped on the side of the road. The muscular man in a jacket, who got out of the car, looked at Martin and asked, "Martin Davis, a new book has been released. Please support it. Collect it, give monthly tickets, and invest in it. The new book is an entertainment business article with an American background. I plan to use a new writing style from a different angle. Chapter 2, you can make a lot of money." The man in the jacket took a few steps forward and stood in front of the half-meter high barbed wire fence. After confirming that he had recognized the wrong person, he said, "I'm Bruce, a subordinate of Boss Vincent." Martin was recalling the details of the loan shark and asked, "What's the matter?" Bruce put his hands on the old barbed wire and said, "I heard that the old bastard Jack Davis ran away. The boss asked me to inform you that you should not forget the debt you borrowed. The first installment should be paid next week." The debt was borrowed by the predecessor Martin Davis himself, so Martin could only bite the bullet and deal with it. "It's not overdue yet. A friendly reminder, you should be prepared." Bruce retracted his hand, patted off the rust on it, grabbed the belt, and pulled up his pants, and the jacket was split to both sides, revealing the pistol under his armpit. He smiled and said, "Don't worry, the beast house is full of civilized people, and the boss has always taught us to abide by the law." Martin glanced at the pistol, and the first thought that came to his mind was to run away. The normal operation, when you can't pay off your debts, is not to sell yourself, but to run away. But how to run away without money? Martin remembered what Alina had said and asked, "Hey, do the gigolos at the beast house make a lot of money?" He remembered that being a gigolo was a legal profession, and they could earn money to support themselves, which was not shabby. "If I'm lucky, I can get a lot of tips every night." Bruce looked at Martin carefully. He was well proportioned and good looking. He smiled more honestly. "The beast house has just opened, and is in need of people. You know the place. If you want to be a gigolo, just go there. You have good conditions. The middle-aged women who are hungry and crazy like you the most. Hey, you can make a lot of money. Can you be an alternative?" Martin said vaguely, "I'll think about it." Bruce got in the car and left. There was a sound from the yard next door. Elena's brother Hall was still digging a hole. Martin was going to ask the house repair company for his salary to solve the imminent problem of eating. Although soft rice is delicious, if you eat it for a long time, you will have nothing to eat in the future. After careful recollection, the office of Maximum, the house repairer, was a little far from the Clayton community. It took a long time to walk there. His leg injury had not healed yet, so he could not walk too long continuously. If the injury worsened, it would cost more money. He could only take the bus. Atlanta's public transportation was very bad, but there was a bus that went directly from the Clayton community to the street where Maximum's office was located. The one-way ticket cost 50 cents. Martin took out his wallet, which was empty. Harris bought him medicine for his injuries with the little money left. Dr. Bill only prescribed veterinary medicine, and Martin didn't dare to take it, even if it was given to him for free. Looking at the next door, Martin gave up the idea of robbing the kid, and went back to the house to look for it. He only found a 25-cent coin. Martin remembered that Elena's father Scott opened a grocery store that collected stolen goods and scraps. He couldn't help but look at the wooden house. There were only the most basic old sofas, low wooden tables, and broken wooden beds. The slightly valuable furniture and appliances had long been moved away by the Carter family for money. The remaining few items were not only broken, but also very heavy. Martin had a leg injury, so it was unrealistic to carry the sofa table to sell. He took out a pair of pliers with broken insulation from the drawer of the low wooden table, went to the side of the yard close to Carter's house, cut the rusty barbed wire fence, and rolled it up. The barbed wire had many broken tips, which made it inconvenient to pick up. Martin returned to the house, searched for a while, and found a rope under the bed. "Can we sell the Carter's barbed wire to Scott Carter?" Martin thought it was not a big problem, as many houses in the community had similar fences. A scream suddenly came from next door, and it sounded like Harris. Martin hurried out, and walked quickly towards Carter's house. In the Carter's yard, a bicycle was tilted to the ground, and there was a pit next to the front wheel. Fine soil was falling into the pit along the collapsed cardboard. Harris sat on the ground, holding his arm, and tears flowed from the pain. Hall Carter, who was only 10 years old, stood in front of him and taunted, "Waste, get up quickly, don't be such a wimp." Harris shouted angrily, "Shut up, idiot. There is a 90% chance that my left hand is broken." Hall's tone weakened a little. "I was just joking with you, setting a little trap. You are too soft." Martin had seen someone's forearm broken when he was a stuntman. After he arrived and took a closer look, he said, "Unlucky guy, you hit the jackpot. Your left arm is broken." Damn it. Harris's head was covered with sweat from the pain. Hall felt guilty, stepped back, and sat on the ground. Seeing that Harris had no other injuries, Martin said, "You need treatment. I'll take you to see Dr. Bill. You said he has excellent medical skills." Harris' face was filled with horror. "Bill can't heal fractures. If I go to him for treatment, the probability of me becoming disabled is as high as 100%. The Carter family will get an extra disability subsidy." Martin added at the right time and reminded, "Don't move your left arm." The sound of hurried footsteps rang out, and the door creaked open. 14-year-old Lily Carter ran out and asked, "What did you two idiots do?" "Hall, how did this damn pit come about?" Martin interrupted her. Go and inform your sister that Harris broke his arm. I'm going to borrow a cell phone from Mrs. Wood. Lily ran diagonally across the street. Martin deliberately spoke to distract Harris' attention. You're back so soon. Harris gritted his teeth and said, Sister Cole has something urgent to do and is not at home. A few minutes later, Lily ran back with a cell phone and said, Elena borrowed a car and is on her way back. When Hall heard Elena's name, he supported himself on the ground with both hands and rubbed his buttocks back little by little, trying to hide further away. Elena's part-time job was not far away, so she drove back quickly. She was in a hurry to get back, and she didn't even change her pants when she was dressed as a teddy bear doll. When she found out Harris's situation, Elena took out her wallet and looked at the money first. She took out a few $1 and $5 bills and two $20 bills and was very anxious. Don't worry, I'll find a way. I can think of a way. There must be a way. Martin had just eaten a week of free meals and patted her shoulder. Give me the car keys. Elena subconsciously handed over the car keys. Wait a minute, I'll go get the money. Martin took the keys and walked towards the car. Lily Carter suddenly caught up and stuffed the borrowed mobile phone into Martin's hand. You take it. If we can't pay back the money, you can always contact Elena. She stretched out her longest finger, withdrew it, and stretched it out again. Martin pressed Lily's forehead and pushed her away. Getting in the car, he familiarized himself with the gears, recalled it, started the car and drove out of the Clayton community, heading south. Maximum's office is located at the edge of Merita's business district. There is a section of road between it and Clayton's block that has been in disrepair for a long time, with potholes and bumps, and the car speed cannot be increased. It took Martin half an hour to arrive in front of a 4-story office building, park the car, and go into the building. Go up to the second floor to find the office with the Maximum Repair Company sign. After knocking on the door, a burly Latin man asked, "What do you want?" Martin replied, "I'm Mr. Maximum's worker, and I want to ask him about work." The blinds of the inner office were opened, and someone said, "Martin, come in." Martin entered the inner office and quickly scanned it. There were many teddy bears of different sizes on the windows, shelves and desks. Even the 2 family photos placed on the desk were with large teddy bears as the background. The photos showed a family of 4 with happy smiles on their faces. A warm and harmonious family, a family that likes teddy bears. People who are good at making money have keen observation skills, and Martin also discovered something else. There were a few specks of white powder scattered beside the pile of documents on the wooden desk. Maximum, who was middle-aged, liked to twitch his nose. The few nose hairs growing out of his nostrils were stained with barely detectable white, and his eyes above his big nose were red and bloodshot. Martin Davis, who came from a lower-class background, had seen too many similar people, such as Scott Carter and Emma Carter. Maximum was a little excited and asked, "Have you recovered from your injury?" Martin said, "My head has been heavy, and it hurts from time to time, and my legs hurt too. You're here to ask for your salary, I understand." Maximum opened the large drawer in the middle, took out a cash check, and pushed it to Martin. "This is yours." Chapter 3 Operation Teddy Bear. After receiving the check, Martin took a look and found that the amount was wrong. Only $100. This was 2 weeks' salary. Martin recalled the relevant situation when he came and said, "Mr. Maximum, we agreed on a daily wage of $45. I worked for you for 12 days in 2 weeks. You never signed a daily wage contract with me. It can only be considered the minimum hourly wage." Maximum had considered the relevant situation and made preparations long ago when Martin Davis was injured. If a worker gets hurt in a complicated place like a head, it will be very troublesome if the problem persists. Maximum blocked the way in advance. "You fell from the roof and smashed the doghouse of Mr. Paul, the owner of the house. He spent $1,200 on the doghouse. I paid $1,000 for it. You can ask Mr. Paul for confirmation." Paul was a friend Maximum had known since he was a teenager, and he had already made arrangements. "Dylan Jones, who worked with you, proved that you drank alcohol while working, violated the rules, and ignored the advice, which led to the accident and caused huge property losses to your employer. You are primarily responsible. In addition, your behavior seriously damaged the company's reputation and caused the company to lose 3 consecutive orders of business. To deal with this poor, dropout, and ignorant fool, Maximum easily threw a series of combined punches. He took out a folder and pushed it to Martin. Take a look. This is the termination agreement caused by you. Your behavior caused the company to lose 3 important customers. Martin opened it and took a quick look. There was no problem on the surface, but it was easy for a company to get such a document. Maximum showed a kind smile. I didn't take you to court to claim compensation from you. Instead, I paid you $100 based on humanitarianism. You should say thank you. He also kindly reminded, if you have any objections, you can file a complaint with the union and apply for arbitration. Sorry, I forgot that you don't have a fixed job, can't pay dues, and have never joined the union. Martin closed the text and fell into thought. It was not easy to deal with. Maximum twitched his nose repeatedly. His expression became more excited. You can't afford a lawyer. You can apply for legal aid from the ATL Legal Aid Association. I heard that the queue is at most a few months. This is an all-round crushing from class to money, even if Maximum is just a small boss of a small company. Martin himself does not understand American laws and regulations, and even the predecessor who has not received the full education of happiness cannot have relevant knowledge reserves. Maximum knocked on the table hard. Go back, young man. Get well. The company welcomes you back at any time. Martin put away the check and looked at Maximum. It seems that the normal procedure is difficult to get through. It's nothing but class and money. The door behind opened at this time, and the Latin strongman appeared at the door. There was no way Martin could do anything with his injured leg, so he turned and left Maximum's office. On his way downstairs, he searched his memory carefully to determine what he had found. This thing is rampant in Atlanta. Martin got in the car and saw a Cadillac parked not far away. In his memory, it was Maximum's car. After thinking for a few minutes, writing down the license plate number, and remembering more about Maximum, especially the road he had to take to get home, Martin started the car and drove over there. Maximum lived in a middle-class community, not far from Clayton. Martin drove along the road in his memory, turned back to the Clayton community, and entered Carter's house. Elena came forward and asked, "Did that damn guy give the money?" Martin took out a cash check and handed it to her. "I met a very difficult boss. Only $100? Elena was very angry. "Does he think you are a beggar?" Harris took painkillers to temporarily suppress the pain and said, "We apply for arbitration or legal aid. What are the chances of winning?" Martin sat on the single sofa and said, "We are poor, and time is a huge cost." Hall suddenly said, "Take the gun and kill him." Lily sneered, "You want to go to jail?" Elena punched each of them on the head and pointed to the bedroom door. "Go in. You two idiots are not allowed to come out without my permission." The brother and sister turned their heads to the side and went into the bedroom. Martin waited until the bedroom door was closed and spoke again. "Harris, can you walk normally?" Harris nodded. "I took painkillers, no problem." Martin didn't waste any words and said directly, "I worked for Maximum for 2 weeks and have some understanding of him. He is a family man. He leaves the company to go home at 3:30 every day. He takes the same road every time. There is a very suitable intersection on that road. Let's wait for him there." Elena was surprised. "What do you want to do? Highway robbery?" Harris backed off. "If I rob Maximum, the probability of going to jail is as high as 90%, and I still want to apply for college. What are you two idiots thinking?" Martin slammed his fist on the armrest of the sofa. "I'm a person with principles and bottom lines." Elena couldn't understand. "I don't want to go to the damn prison. Lily and Hall are two idiots. Either shut up or listen to me." Martin quickly recounted what he was thinking and then said, "Within their rules, poor people can never defeat rich people. We must jump out." Harris murmured, "Principles and bottom lines." Martin didn't care. "We have principles and bottom lines, but the principles and bottom lines should be flexible and changeable." Elena gave 2 middle fingers and agreed. The idiot has finally become a little smarter. Martin grabbed Elena's leg, pulled off a few hairs of the teddy bear puppet pants, and asked, "Can you get a set of teddy bear puppet clothes?" Elena raised her eyebrows. "No problem." Martin asked again, "Do you have a camera or something?" Harris said first, "Scott's store should have second-hand goods." "Great." Martin ordered. "Elena, you go get the puppet clothes. I'll go find Scott." "Harris, you keep an eye on those two idiots. Don't let them cause trouble again." Elena was the first to stand up and said as she walked out, "Lazy guys, hurry up and run. Teddy bear operation has begun." She drove back to the mall where the promotion was held. Martin went to the north of the community and found a miniature grocery store. Scott Carter sat at the counter, grabbing a bottle of rum and pouring it into his mouth. When he saw Martin, he burped and said, "Boy, what are you doing here?" Martin came to the counter and said, "Your son Harris broke his arm." Scott took a sip of wine and said, "Remind him to go to the hospital." Martin knew Scott would not pay, so he asked, "Do you have a camera?" "No camera, but a video camera." Scott put down the bottle and showed off a mini video camera, new from JVC, "Just received it last week. Help me find a buyer and I'll give you a commission." Martin had seen this model before, so he took it and fiddled with it. "Does it work?" Scott stretched his neck. "Of course it works." Martin took it and left without looking back. "I need it for Harris treatment, and I'll give it back to you later." "Damn it, stop right there, stop right there." Scott shouted fiercely, but did not chase him. Back at Carter's house, Elena came back soon, and the three of them met up and set off together. Operation Teddy Bear began. Chapter 4 Big Collision. At 3:30 in the afternoon, Maximum went downstairs on time, got into the Cadillac, and went home along the familiar road. On the side of the road, Elena saw an old Toyota that had been passed down for who knows how many times. She found that the Cadillac turned into the intersection, took out her cell phone and dialed a number, saying, "The idiot is on the road." After receiving a response, she drove far behind. There were not many cars on the road, and Maximum drove very fast. He received a call on the way. "Sweetheart, you go pick up the children. I will make chocolate cookies for them tonight." Entering a narrow road with 2 lanes in both directions, the Cadillac ran over a small stone and shook. Maximum subconsciously slowed down the car, turned the direction slightly, and bypassed the remaining gravel. I don't know which bitch who gave birth to a son without an asshole threw some gravel on the road. Maximum slowed down again and was suddenly attracted by something on the small intersection in front of the left. It was a large teddy bear doll, and the doll carried a colorful flag in one hand, which read, "All kinds of teddy bears are on sale this weekend." The 2 babies in the family like teddy bears the most, and Maximum also likes them very much and can't help but take a few more glances. On the other side of the small road, the green shrubs are growing vigorously. Harris crouched on his bicycle, supporting himself with one leg, staring at the teddy bear on the other side of the road, waiting for the signal. Because he had practiced several times before, his fractured left arm hurt so much that his face was grim. Harris endured the pain and secretly calculated, "The probability of success is as high as 60%. I can do it." At this moment, the teddy bear puppet on the opposite side threw away the colorful flag. Harris suddenly stepped on the bicycle pedal and rushed out. Between his clenched teeth, he squeezed out a sentence, "For money." Faced with the temptation of money, the paw burst out with unparalleled strength. The mean bear on the small road threw away the colorful flag, suddenly clenched his left hand into a fist, placed it in front of his furry belly, and then twisted his waist and hips, twisted his waist and hips again, and twisted his waist and hips again, with an exaggerated frequency, as if he wanted to shoot down the plane in the sky. This was the first time Maximum had seen such a mean teddy bear doll, and he almost burst out laughing. A considerable part of his attention was attracted by the mean bear in front of him on the left. Harris rushed out from behind the green belt in front of him on the right. Maximum caught sight of the figure and stepped on the brakes subconsciously. There was a collision sound, the car shook, and someone fell on the road. Maximum's head was dazed for a moment, then he came to his senses, cursed, unbuckled his seatbelt, and got out of the car to check the situation. The car was not going fast, and he felt that the problem was not big. An old bicycle fell crookedly in front of the Cadillac. The rear wheel was still turning, and the right front lampshade of the Cadillac was cracked. A young white man was lying on the road, screaming. Harris didn't need to act, but was really in pain, a piercing pain, and he screamed at the top of his throat. Maximum asked quickly, "Are you okay?" It hurt so much that Harris didn't want to answer. After Maximum asked again, he said palely, my left hand is broken." Maximum was shocked. Just when he was considering whether to leave, he found that the mean bear was coming towards him at the intersection. There were witnesses. Martin picked up the small camera placed on the bench by the roadside and ran over there. Elena happened to drive over. He put the camera in the passenger seat and waved his hand. Elena glanced at Harris on the ground and immediately drove away to make a copy at the place they had contacted in advance. Martin took off the big head of the teddy bear, took out his mobile phone, and asked loudly, "Mr. Maximum, do you need to call the police?" Maximum found out it was Martin, and he looked like he had seen a ghost. Harris sat up with one hand and said, "Call 911, call an ambulance." Martin certainly didn't call 911. He held the teddy bear's head in one hand and the phone in the other, like a good employee following his boss's orders. He whispered, "Mr. Maximum." Maximum absolutely couldn't let anyone call the police. He had calmed down by now. A normal car accident was nothing. Even if someone's arm was broken, it was no big deal. But driving under the influence of drugs and causing serious injuries to others was a felony, and he might go to jail. It's just a small matter. There's no need to occupy public resources. Maximum looked at Harris with a gentle attitude, as if he was willing to take responsibility to the end. "The main responsibility for this car accident is me. I'm very sorry. I will pay for your medical expenses, and I will also compensate you for lost work in accordance with regulations." He glanced at the bicycle with the handlebars twisted upside down. "If there are other losses, I will compensate." Harris grimaced in pain and said through gritted teeth, "I'm applying to colleges and preparing for the SAT exam. Now my arm is broken. The probability of me getting into the target university has dropped by 80%. The gentleness on Maximum's face slowly disappeared. He looked at the young man's attire and the shabby bicycle and stood up. "Okay, let's go through the normal procedures. You find a lawyer to sue my insurance company, and the insurance company will be responsible for your compensation. As long as this poor guy has a normal mind, he will know what to do to benefit." Martin raised his cell phone, pressed the number 9 key, and said, "Mr. Maximum, I'll call 911 for you." "Stop. It's none of your business." Maximum wanted to kick this idiot away. He squatted in front of Harris. "Kid, I'm sincere in reconciling with you. I'm very sorry for what happened today, but sincerity is mutual. I will let you see my sincerity, and you will let me see your sincerity, right?" Having discussed Maximum's psychological bottom line in advance, Harris raised 3 fingers. "I'm seriously injured and will delay the exam. $3,000. $3,000 can compensate for my loss." The gentleness on Maximum's face disappeared. $1,000. "The most I can give you is $1,000. Harris looked at Martin. "Call 911 for me, thank you." 2 cars passed by. Maximum didn't want to meet enthusiastic citizens, so he forced a smile. "I'm a responsible person. $2,000, no more." Harris said, "Okay, $2,000. You have to pay immediately." Maximum breathed a sigh of relief, went back to the car, took out the checkbook from his bag, and wrote 2 checks for $1,000. Harris had touched many checks in Scott's store, and after confirming that there was no problem, he put them away. Maximum opened the driver's door and prepared to go home to make chocolate chip cookies for his 2 babies. He said to Martin, who was blocking the way, "Can you move aside for a moment?" Martin's hand suddenly reached out and closed the car door. Maximum realized it later and reached out to pat Martin's teddy bear costume. "I have something to do today. I'll contact you later." Martin smiled and said, "Mr. Maximum, I'm actually a kind-hearted citizen who likes to help others. If I don't call 911 to seek help for the injured in this kind of situation, I will feel guilty and can't sleep for several days." Maximum was alert. "Boy, what do you want to do? I warn you, don't mess around." Martin didn't want to drag it out too long, so he said directly, "The new boss is worried that I'm not working hard, so he got a small camera to watch me and shoot it, and the lens is facing this intersection. Maximum's face was gloomy, and his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's eyes, scanning every part of Martin's body. Martin was worried that he had a gun. The boss just passed by here and took the camera away. If necessary, I can call someone back. Chapter 5. Vicious and unworthy of being a human. Maximum is not stupid. Looking at Harris and Martin, and thinking about the obscene actions of the bed dressed by Martin, it is not difficult to draw a conclusion. You framed me? He said sternly. This is extortion. Kit, you are in trouble. You hit someone, and want to shirk responsibility? Martin certainly would not admit it. Instead, he picked up his phone, pressed the 3 numbers 911, and asked Harris seriously, do you need my help to call the police? Maximum's expression was no longer gentle. You messed with the wrong person. You are dead. Martin seemed not to hear it, and muttered to himself, drug driving caused serious injuries to others. I remember there was a case in the community. The unlucky guy lost all his property, and was sentenced to, how many years? Maximum stepped back, and leaned against the car. Martin muttered, there is a ready-made case today, and we will know soon. Harris cooperated very well, and was very happy. Drug driving, my god, great. The probability of me making a fortune is as high as 100%. He added a scene temporarily, you must sell that videotape to me. I'll give you $1,000. Maximum stared at Martin, as if he saw a poisonous snake. Martin said, Mr. Maximum, you are an outstanding husband and a loving father. You have a beautiful wife and lovely children. They must regard you as a pillar and a hero. I admire you very much, and must not let you be involved in a criminal case. You are the son of a bastard. Maximum cursed. You are so shameless that you don't deserve to be a human being. Martin was not angered by him. I'm an enthusiastic citizen. I called the police and sent the videotape. I may receive Merita Honorary Citizen Medal. Maximum gradually broke down. Don't make yourself sound so noble, you reptile in the slums. I know you do it for money. Just say a number and give me the videotape. People should be responsible for what they say. Martin decided to temporarily increase the price. $5,000. Boy, are you crazy? Maximum pointed at him and said, the fine for calling the police is only $5,000. Instead of refusing, Martin calculated the numbers. He sensed that Maximum was about to be defeated, and he raised the stakes again. My new boss has a freelance journalist friend. As long as I call the police, Channel 3, which focuses on Atlanta social life news, will soon receive a copy. He pointed at Harris and said, I don't understand the law. Mr. Maximum, in addition to the fine, do you want to pay bail? Do you have to pay for a lawyer? The free lawyers of the ATL Legal Aid Association will take a few months to wait. Maximum's head was about to smoke. Martin took advantage of the victory and pressed on. You may still go to jail. If the sentence is longer, will your beautiful wife divorce you? Will she take your property and find a new boyfriend? It seems not bad. Someone will protect your wife and raise your children for you. Enough. Shut up. Maximum turned around and kicked the wheel of the Cadillac. Martin Davis, you are so vicious that you don't deserve to be a human being. He took out a pen and checkbook from the car. $3,000. Only $3,000. If you ask for 1 cent more, I will fight you to the death. Also, send back the damn videotape. Martin wanted to give Alina time to copy the video, so he took out 3 checks for $1,000 and said, I'm a pauper and have never seen a large check. You accompany me to the bank to transfer the money. I will give you the videotape immediately after the transfer. There is a Bank of America branch nearby. Maximum said viciously, don't play tricks. Martin said, honesty and trustworthiness are my principles. After crossing the intersection, there was a bank branch at most 1,000 meters away. Harris got up, ignored the bicycle, and followed Martin on foot. Maximum moved the old bicycle away, got on the bike and followed. With the large check in his hand, Harris even forgot the pain of his broken arm, and couldn't help saying, how did I act? If it's put on the film festival, there is an 80% chance of winning the best actor. Martin directly rejected it. It's too exaggerated and superficial. He took out his mobile phone and called Alina. Is the video okay? Good. Send the original tape over after you're done. Bank of America. Arriving at the Bank of America branch, Martin and Harris each opened an account. Martin went out in the middle to get the camera back. While the check was being transferred, Maximum took a rough look at the video on the small LCD screen of the cassette camera in the waiting area of the branch, took out the cassette, and put it in his bag. The video happened to record the process of the bicycle breaking into the camera and the Cadillac colliding with it. The angle was obviously selected. Maximum asked, "Do you have a copy to burn?" Martin took back the camera and asked in surprise, "Can this thing be burned?" Maximum stared at him, didn't notice anything unusual, and stood up. "Don't let me see you again." Martin said, "Don't worry, I don't want to see you either." Maximum left the bank branch, got in the car, and slammed the steering wheel. Shit, those two bastards will pay the price sooner or later. The Cadillac started and drove into a secluded road. Maximum got out of the car, pulled out the cassette tape, lit it with a lighter, and burned it to ashes. Starting tomorrow, he will temporarily hire a driver to avoid a second time. With the shamelessness of that bastard, he will definitely do it. Martin and Harris each took out some change, applied for a credit card, and went out to get in the car. Elena asked, "Don't your legs and arms hurt?" Martin closed the passenger door and said, "I found that my legs hurt only when I have no money. I feel so comfortable all over when I have money." Harris leaned back in the back seat. His excitement subsided, and he urged, "Take me to the hospital quickly, I'm dying of pain." Elena started the car. "A car can't kill you, idiot. This little injury won't kill me." Passing by the accident scene, the bicycle disappeared. The three of them didn't care at all. In their eyes, the broken car that made noises everywhere, except the bell, had become shit. With the money, Harris' arm could be treated without going to veterinarian bill. Elena suddenly had an idea. "It's not easy to break an arm once. Why do we do it again? There are a lot of drug addicts." Harris protested, "The probability of me dying is as high as 99%. Martin had already considered it. Maximum has a happy family and a pair of children. He doesn't want to become a criminal. What if he meets a grumpy old man next time? What if he shoots Harris' pig head?" Elena concentrated on driving and stopped talking. Arriving at the hospital, Martin accompanied Harris for treatment, and Elena went to return the car and teddy bear. Martin asked, "Whose car is it?" Elena said, "Monica's. She's a good person." Martin whispered, "Remember to fill it up with gas." Elena stared at him for a while. "Did your idiot brain open up?" Martin saw Harris coming out of the courtroom and hurried over. Harris's condition was not very bad, and he did not need surgery or steel nails or plates. The doctor repositioned the bone and put on a plaster cast. All that was left was to take medicine and rest. Elena, who had rushed back from the hospital, suggested, "Let's celebrate in the evening." "Celebrate a fool who broke his arm. I agree." Martin was generous. "I'll treat you. Let's go buy some beer." Harris followed with his arm in a sling. "I want funnel cake and a Monte Cristo sandwich." Elena was very happy. "It's rare for a poor guy to treat me. I want Sweetwater beer and oxtail rice." The three of them made a lot of purchases at roadside restaurants and convenience stores, planning to go back and party. Thank you all for your support. During the period of the new book, it is very important to follow up. I beg you to click and take a look every day. Thanks to Brother Dogecoin and Brother HUI for being the leaders. I wish you all 10 times a night and never get tired. Chapter 6, What I'm Best At. It was dark outside, but the house was brightly lit and filled with laughter. Harris finished his Monte Cristo sandwich, picked up a can of beer, and threw it to Martin, opened another can with one hand, and said loudly, "Martin, my admiration for you has increased from 0 to 90%. Elena came over with a plate, sat next to Martin, and forked a piece of oxtail meat. "A prize for you." Martin bit off the meat, opened the beer, raised it and said, "You useless people, let's raise your glasses together. Cheers." Lily and Hall, two idiots, also raised their cokes. The harvest of the afternoon brought real joy. This joy was so pure that it encouraged Lily and Hall to reach for the beer. Elena glanced over and Lily shrank her neck and said, "It wasn't me, it was Hall who held my hand." Hall was not to be outdone. He was clearly encouraging me to take it. Martin knocked on the empty can. If you two idiots ruin my good mood again, I will throw you out to sleep on the street. Since you treated me. Lily's straw made a buzzing sound and she stopped arguing with Hall. Martin stood up and said, okay, I'll mix you a drink for girls. Elena was surprised. When did you learn how to mix drinks, you idiot? Martin picked up a can of Sweetwater beer and came to the open kitchen. While searching, he said, old bastard Jack is the most versatile person in northeastern Merita. Why do you think he kidnapped your mother? Harris quietly went behind the sofa and deliberately said to Elena, the son of bastard Jack has a 99% chance of being a bastard. Lily, who was next to him, heard it and interrupted, Scott and Jack are both bastards, and Martin is also a bastard. Perfect inheritance. With a bang, Elena's fist landed on Lily's face. Lily covered her nose and was silent. There were no professional materials in the kitchen, so Martin could only find a few substitutes. There was no cocktail shaker, so he simply took the kettle that Lily used for school. Jack Davis was indeed versatile, but Martin Davis had never learned how to mix drinks from him. This was something Martin learned when he was drifting around in order to fight for a supporting role as a bartender. At that time, Martin loved wine and had been practicing. Martin poured in half a bottle of sweet beer, added sugar, salt, cola and baking soda, cracked an egg, beat in the egg white, squeezed in a little lemon juice, and finally tightened the lid and shook it. He took 2 cups and placed them on the coffee table piled with food packaging boxes. Martin unscrewed the lid and poured it into the cups. Foam beauty, welcome to taste. The wine in the cups was full of foam. Elena took a cup and took a sip carefully. It tastes a bit strange. Lily was quick and grabbed another cup and smelled it hard. It's so disgusting. Martin slapped Lily on the top of her head. Idiot, watch your mouth. Harris took Lily's glass and enjoyed it alone. Have you learned anything else that we don't know? Martin said, I'm also good at riding horses. Lily couldn't help it again. I know. The knife-like eyes turned over and Lily shut up completely. Martin was a stuntman and only knew how to ride a horse. Elena finished her bubble beauty and thought of something. She found the packaged CD and gave it to Martin, the re-engraved video. Harris asked, is it still useful? Martin put it aside and said vaguely, even if that jerk quits tomorrow, his drug test will still be positive for a long time in the future. The others didn't understand why, so they threw it all out of their minds and focused on eating and drinking. After eating and drinking, Elena asked, you won't run away with the money like the bastard Jack? Martin opened another beer. With just this little money, running to a strange place, it will be more difficult than it is now, after spending it all. This was true and false, because Martin did consider running away. As for whether to run away, let's see the situation first. Elena moved her legs to the sofa. I allow you to pay the rent later. Go and pay off some of the loan sharks first. I heard that Vincent, the owner of the Beast House, is difficult to deal with. She turned and asked, have you considered a new job? Martin certainly considered it. Do what I'm best at. It was getting late, and Harris was tired after a day of tossing and turning, so he dragged Hall back to the room. Elena stood up to clean up the garbage on the floor. She leaned on the coffee table with her back to Martin and bent down to pick up the napkins that Hall had thrown. In the morning, Martin slept alone on the couch. The Carter family was not big, with only 2 bedrooms. Elena and Lily lived in one, and Harris and Hall shared the other. Martin couldn't squeeze into the same room with Elena and Lily. He was too lazy to go back to the next door last night, so he just slept on the couch, half asleep and half awake. Martin thought of what he was best at. What was he good at? Acting and some skills related to acting, and the most important thing was to make a living in the entertainment industry. In his previous life, he was young and dreamy, wanting to be the second Shadjan, and spent a lot of his best years in it. If we only talk about acting, although he was born in a wild way, he was willing to study hard and endure hardships. After he got a supporting role, even some old actors who graduated from professional schools in the early days would say good things. The field of acting requires talent. Martin had good talent in his previous life, but the success or failure in the entertainment industry is not determined by talent and acting skills. Martin has lost his innocence and has enough self-awareness His predecessor, Martin Davis, was almost at the bottom of society, with almost no connections, negative assets, and even unfinished education. Martin knew very well that, if he wanted to develop in the future, it would be best to do an industry he was good at. The film and television industry in Hollywood is also not easy to mix. In fact, for poor people, it is difficult to do other industries, except buying for free, or joining the gang as a bottom-level cannon fodder. Martin's short-term goals have become clear. He will adapt to the American society, learn more about the dynamics of the film and television industry, and make more money, to go to Los Angeles or New York to look for opportunities. Atlanta can also be regarded as a starting point. After all, in the previous life, by around 2015, Atlanta had become the third largest film and television production base in the United States after Los Angeles and New York. It's mainly about opportunities. Many times, opportunities are far more important than ability. Big guys, please give me some monthly tickets. Chapter 7, Paying for Acting. After a quick breakfast, Martin went out alone. After a night, the pain in his legs got better, and the memory of his previous life became clearer. His physical condition improved, so he couldn't waste time. There were still many things to do. Martin saved the burned CD, took his JVC camera, and went to the grocery store in the north of the community. Early in the morning, Scott Carter was already drinking, the sun shining on his face. His nose was brighter than the red light at the intersection. Martin put the camera on the counter. I'm returning it to you. By the way, Harris has been cured. Scott actually put down the bottle, stood up and carefully checked the camera. Suddenly his nose became redder. Boy, where is my cassette? You stole my cassette. Don't frame people. Martin said nonsense casually. The tape in the cassette was used to splint your son. You go ask Alina for it. Hearing the name of his eldest daughter, Scott sat back and did not mention Alina at all. Tell that bastard Harris that the cassette is worth $20 and he must send the money tomorrow. Martin avoided this and asked, do you have a cheap mobile phone? The mobile phone he took yesterday was the one Lily borrowed from Mrs. Wood. Poor guy, you have money to buy a cell phone. Scott thought of a possibility. Is it that bastard Jack is back? Tell me, where is he? Normal people whose wives were abducted must have a life and death feud, but Scott's brain circuit was unusual. Let me calculate. How many days did this bastard abduct Emma? Damn, who knows how many times they have done that? I want to charge you by the day, at least $100, no, $200 a day. It was too difficult to communicate with people who were not on the same channel. Martin was too lazy to say anything more, and prepared to leave. Scott took out a cell phone from under the counter. European goods, very strong. It can still be used even if you die. Martin took it, a grey candy bar phone, a second-hand Nokia 3010 used in his previous life. It felt wrong, so he turned it over and found that the back shell was cracked and glued together, and there was a hole in the middle of the crack. Scott took a sip of wine. This is a lucky phone. I don't show it to ordinary people. The Eagles gang was fighting with others. A delivery boy was hit by a ricochet bullet. The phone blocked it for him, but the battery was broken. I replaced it later. Martin turned on the phone and made sure it worked normally. He asked, how much? Scott waved his hand and seemed generous. Take it. If it was Harris or Alina's, Martin would take it directly, but this was Scott, a drunkard and a drug addict. Since Alina was 16 years old, he was unwilling to spend money on his children. Free is the most expensive. Martin took out $20 from his pocket and put it on the counter, then took the phone and left. Scott was surprised. When did this idiot become smart? Martin found a place to handle the network registration procedures and bought several newspapers, especially those on social economy and film and entertainment, and returned to the rented house to read them carefully. One must always understand the social situation. Atlanta has further accelerated its development since the 1996 Olympics. The economic, political, and social status of black people, who account for 40% of the total population, has improved significantly. Correspondingly, black gangs that were originally mainly active in the southern part of the metropolitan area began to enter the prosperous areas of the city, constantly causing friction with the original white forces, and robberies and shootings occurred frequently. Martin also saw a recruitment notice for the House of the Beast in a tabloid. This club had just opened and was recruiting male dancers. Do you want to go and have a look? He felt a chill on his back and the back window banged. The wind blew. Martin went to close the window. The backyard was full of weeds. Suddenly he remembered that there was a dead person buried in the yard, and it was a pity Angelina dug. The warm spring breeze suddenly turned into a gust of cold wind. Want to jump out and scare people? Martin decided to have a party in the backyard in a few days, invite more people to come, and arrange heavy rock and disco. He was too tired last night, so he took a nap at noon. Martin walked around the Clayton community in the afternoon, looking for business opportunities that could make money quickly. Don't say it, there are really a lot of them, with weeds and rice everywhere. Many people who don't touch these things are hourly workers like Alina, and those who have stable jobs are a minority. Martin Davis, the predecessor, never had a stable job and had been living off Alina for a long time. He often went to the Merita Community Theater and dreamed of becoming a star. Martin decided to go and take a look. After another day of rest, Martin's body was basically recovered. It was the weekend, when the theater had a fixed activity, so he simply took an old minibus to Margaret Square. The Memorial Hall of Margaret Mitchell, the author of Gone with the Wind, is located here. Martin walked towards the Memorial Hall, glanced at the words, "When Hollywood Met Merita" on the wall at the entrance, walked around the Memorial Hall, and went to a small theater at the back. There was a van parked at the entrance of the theater. Jerome Mitchell, who was dressed in a formal suit, was directing people to unload the goods. When he saw Martin, he gave an order, "Hurry up, come and help." This was the director of the Merita Community Theater, and it was said that he was related to Margaret Mitchell's family. Martin deliberately limped over and carried a small box into the theater. Jerome asked, "You disappeared for a week," which delayed a lot of work in the troupe. Martin limped past him and said, "I broke my leg. I just got out of bed and rushed here as soon as I could." Jerome stared at Martin with sharp eyes, just like a boss who found an employee who was slacking off. The goods were delivered to the warehouse, and a dozen people moved to the small theater, sitting in the seats under the stage in twos and threes. There are more than 7,000 community theaters in the United States, and Merita is just an inconspicuous one among them. The only thing worth mentioning is that Mr. T-1000 Robert Patrick once joined the troupe when he was young. Martin took a quick look and found that the 10 people were new faces that he didn't remember. Fatty Robert came over and asked with concern, "I heard that you broke your leg." Martin nodded. "I rested for a week." He signaled with his eyes. "A lot of newcomers?" Robert said helplessly, "The theater has a lot of things to do, and we have to come here to work all the time. We, the extras, have no income. The membership payment period of the troupe is about to come, and some people have quit. Only by filling their stomachs can they continue their dream of becoming a star. The choice between reality and dreams." Jerome walked to the middle of the stage, clapped his hands to attract everyone's attention, and said, "I have some good news to tell you." He didn't keep everyone in suspense, and said directly, "Channel 2 is cooperating with Grey Film Production Company to plan to shoot a plantation-themed drama. Actors will be recruited at the Midtown Art Theater next week. I have contacted the casting director, and everyone will have a chance to appear on the screen then." The newcomers were very excited. Robert was very calm. He only recruited extras. Jerome said with a bit of show off, "You all know that I have some connections in Hollywood. I just got a piece of heavyweight news. A big budget movie starring Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet with an investment of tens of millions will be shot in Atlanta in the near future. In order to reduce costs, they will recruit actors in Atlanta. I believe that the Merita Theater can produce another Robert Patrick." Martin carefully recalled what movies Fat Win and Jim Carrey had worked together on. The fragrant bait was thrown out, and Jerome began to pull the fishing line. "The theater belongs to all of us. We use public facilities together. Rehearsing the repertoire requires expenses. The daily maintenance costs of the theater are borne by us together. Therefore, the theater will charge a membership fee of $300 per month. I believe everyone can understand this. It is not a free performance, but a paid performance." Martin is well informed, so it is not surprising When he was drifting in Hingpio, one of his fellow countrymen, a little star, was said to have asked his family to sell several houses in order to play the supporting role in a previous drama. This kind of paying money to act in a play is not an isolated case. Many people want to pay, but have no way. Book Friends Group. 729,765,122. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8 Another Debt. The troupe will not rehearse new plays for the time being. For your future, the focus of work will be on winning roles in film and television projects. Jerome's face was full of enthusiasm, but he had another plan in mind. Once rehearsals started, money would flow like water. The Merita Community Theater is non-profit in nature, and its income mainly comes from donations from public welfare organizations and cultural subsidies from the local government. For example, the theater is owned by the City Hall. Rehearsals are easier to account for, just like filming, and the money saved will naturally flow into the pockets of several leaders headed by him. Jerome looked like he was doing it for you, and emphasized his tone. In the future, I will personally guide your performances. Believe me, there will be no one more professional than me in Merita. Martin listened and thought. Facing film and television crews, the troupe has an advantage over individuals, but $300 a month. The money in his hand was earned with the pain of a broken arm. The one who broke his arm was Harris. He respected Harris's efforts. Martin didn't see the benefit, so he wouldn't throw it away easily. The newcomers were not stupid. Someone asked, "Captain, why do you want to shoot the movie you mentioned in Atlanta?" Atlanta is currently inconspicuous in the Hollywood film and television industry chain. Jerome smiled confidently. The state government just passed a bill before the new year. Any film and television production shot in Atlanta, as long as the investment exceeds $500,000, will enjoy a 20% tax discount. If the film is marked with the Georgia logo, it will enjoy another 10% discount. He saw it clearly. Hollywood film and television production companies will never miss the opportunity to make more profits. More crews will come to Atlanta to shoot in the future. Now the opportunity has come. Are you ready? Another person asked. I saw in the forum that actors must go through agents to find jobs. I don't have an agent. Don't worry about the damn agents. Don't worry about the damn rules and regulations of the Actors Guild. The California Talent Bill doesn't apply to Atlanta. Jerome asked the man, do you want the agent to take 10% or do you want to pay $3,000 to join the Actors Guild and pay a large membership fee every year? The man was moved by Jerome and shook his head repeatedly. For $3,000, I would rather change my car. Martin has been very quiet. Even if he has different opinions, he will not speak rashly. After the chicken soup meeting, the troupe's accountant put the table to collect money. Only one of the 10 newly recruited people left, and the other 9 all paid their dues. Even an old man like Robert still chose to stay in the troupe. Martin had experienced this stage and understood their mentality, which was no different from countless Hingpio. After hearing about the two crews, Martin kept thinking about how to make Jerome think of him first. After waiting for everyone to leave, Martin limped to the accounting desk, his face full of shame. Mr. Mitchell, I have no money and can't pay the dues. Jerome Mitchell frowned. Martin, don't make it difficult for me. Martin's emotions were mobilized, and he took out his pants and shirt pockets. Only $7. I'm very sorry. I fell down and broke my leg when I was doing roof repair work, and all my salary was spent on treatment. The boss refused to compensate me and fired me. Can the dues be postponed for a while? He acted the simple play with personal experience very well. I'm looking for a new job, and I will make up for it when I have money. Yes, isn't there a play next week? As long as I get the salary for the role, I will immediately make up for it to the troupe. The predecessor Martin Davis's consistent good performance in the troupe is the basis for him to say this. Jerome looked at Martin's shame and helplessness and remembered the most difficult time when he was young, and he actually felt a little soft-hearted. Don't let me down. Thank you. Martin hurriedly thanked him, and his eyes swept across the book under the accounting form, the latest issue of Entertainment Weekly. He pointed at the magazine and said, "Mr. Mitchell, you know I like Hollywood news the most, but I don't have money to buy it. Can I?" Jerome waved his hand and said, "Take it." Martin took the book and limped out of the theater. Jerome was soft-hearted and would not do a loss-making business. He wrote down Martin's debt. No one could owe him a debt for a long time. This poor guy couldn't pay it back. He would find an opportunity to push the poor guy out, to work and pay it back. In Jerome's subconscious mind, people who paid the membership fee could sit in the back row. After all, they couldn't squeeze oil this month. Martin waited for a long time before the dilapidated minibus arrived. He found a seat at the back and flipped through the magazine. After reading the magazine for a while, the minibus suddenly shook and the driver shouted loudly, "The car is broken." Including Martin, a chorus of curses rang out. This damn public transportation. Martin had to get off the bus with the others. Halfway through the journey, the next minibus might have to wait a long time. There were no taxis running around Atlanta. If you wanted to take a taxi, you had to call a taxi specifically. Martin simply walked. A Dodge pickup truck drove up from behind and stopped beside the sidewalk. The car was spray painted with the pattern of the Beast House. The right window was lowered, and Bruce, who was wearing a jacket, waved. "Martin Davis, do you want a ride?" Martin looked at him. "Sure." Bruce pointed forward. "I live in the back, a community south of Clayton. It's on the way." Martin pulled the passenger seat and got in the car. "What a coincidence." Bruce stepped on the accelerator. "I just collected a bill for the boss." After the car drove a few hundred meters, he suddenly said, "I almost forgot. You have to pay me $5 for the fare." Martin slammed the door. "Hey, man, can you be a human being?" Bruce held the steering wheel with one hand and opened his jacket with the other hand. "The boss said that the employees of the Beast House must be civilized people who abide by the law." Martin saw the pistol under his armpit and recognized Bruce as a civilized person. "Pay when we get to Clayton. Deal." Bruce smiled honestly. Martin didn't want to talk to him, so he picked up a magazine and flipped through it. Bruce turned his head quickly and saw the cover. Entertainment Weekly? "I like this magazine." There's a poster for Lost in Translation on the magazine. Martin's mind raced. "A fan of Scarlett Johansson?" Bruce looked back reluctantly. "I collected the poster of this movie, but it's broken." Martin asked, "How did it get broken?" Bruce pursed his dry lips. "The poster was accidentally damaged by the wind." Martin raised his thumb and imitated Harris' tone. "I'm 100% sure that you are a civilized person." He picked up the magazine and shook it. "Hey, man, the latest Entertainment Weekly. It's hard to buy in Atlanta. Not only the cover, but also the complete set of stills from Lost in Translation." Bruce reached out to take it, but Martin took it back. "The fare is waived. It's $10. You're a profiteer." Although he said that, Bruce kept looking at the cover. Martin rolled up the magazine again. "My neighbor Carter's bastard also likes this poster. I can sell this magazine for at least $20. Bruce took out two $5 bills and threw them to Martin. "You win." Martin put away the money, handed the magazine he got for free to Bruce, and said, "Nonsense, dude. I'm an actor. When I become famous in the future, I will get you a signed photo from the crew." Bruce didn't want to talk to this man anymore. This man is not a human being. He simply brought out his killer move. "Think about how to pay you back." I remember. Martin planned to stay in Atlanta temporarily, and he had to find a way to deal with this account. He said, "I want to see your boss. Tomorrow night. The boss is at the Beast's house." Bruce shook the magazine in his hand. "For its sake, I'll tell you one thing. If you can prove your worth to the boss, you will get preferential treatment." Chapter 9 Why I Don't Have a Tip. The Beast House is located on West Avenue in the Atlanta ring, on the western edge of the city. As soon as Martin got off the minibus, he saw a huge sign flashing in the night sky. The club's facade is luxurious and classy. A dozen women lined up along the sidewalk, waiting to buy tickets to enter. In contrast, the bar opposite with black neon letters was more lively, with at least 40 or 50 men queuing. Women don't have to queue up and enter for free. Martin came to the door of the Beast House and said to the tall young man who collected money, "I'm looking for Vincent." Ivan nodded. Tickets, $20. Martin didn't want to pay, so he pulled out the banner of civilization. I'm Bruce's friend, giving money to Vincent. Ivan made a phone call. Go in. Martin sneaked into the club, but instead of going to the bar, he found a corner where no one paid attention and quietly observed the club. He owed $6,000 in high interest loans, and he had to pay back much more than $6,000. That's compound interest. He had to think of a way. Martin had specifically asked someone during the day, and Bruce's words were somewhat credible. It may have just opened. The place that can accommodate hundreds of people only has 40 customers at most. Even so, the atmosphere is still hot. After a dance, several customers went to the bar to drink and rest. Martin turned his head and found that the bartender was actually the civilized man Bruce. Martin saw Vincent Lee on the other side of the bar. He was a white man wearing a curled cowboy hat, about 27 or 28 years old, with a large hooked nose that could peck people. Martin's eyes caught Vincent's attention, and Vincent looked sideways in his direction. Martin would not be stupid enough to regard Vincent as a businessman who could afford to open such a club and dare to lend money at high interest rates. He quickly prepared himself mentally and strode over. Vincent put one hand on the bar and glanced at him. Martin, the son of the old bastard Jack. Martin took out the check he had made during the day and put it in front of Vincent. The first installment of interest and repayment, $600. Vincent picked it up and flicked it, then put it in his shirt pocket. Jack is really a talent. He even cheated his son. I admire him very much. After paying the debt first, Martin carefully tried. Can the account be counted on him? Part of it is fine. Vincent didn't take it at all. Have you found a way to make money? No. Martin's eyes fell on Bruce. The talent of civilized people is in licking paper, and he is clumsy in mixing drinks. Martin kept talking. I broke my leg while working, and the boss was kind and took the initiative to give me compensation. Vincent nodded slightly. You have perfectly inherited Jack's scumbag genes. Come to work for me and perform on stage. The money will be paid off soon. Martin did not hide his envy for the green money. Only fools don't like it. But he was also afraid that once he got used to making money lying down, it would be too difficult to stand up again. Martin turned his head back, resisting the urge for the receipt, and looked at the civilized bartender, muttering, "There's something wrong with this drink." Bruce was pouring the prepared Long Island iced tea into an ice glass. Vincent was indeed attracted. What's wrong with the drink Bruce mixed? Martin pointed at the ice glass and started to talk nonsense with his knowledge from his previous life. The essence of Long Island iced tea lies in ice. The icicle in the glass is less than half high, and the frost is not enough to bring the temptation of sinking into the mouth. Vincent was not moved at all. Who cares about this for customers who come out to play? Martin immediately changed his rhetoric. This means that the empty space at the top of the glass must be filled with at least 1/3 more alcohol. Even if the cheapest base liquor of the same type is used, the profit per glass will be much less. Vincent raised his cowboy hat and silently calculated an extra $2 profit from a Long Island iced tea. Assuming 30 glasses are sold every night, an extra $420 a week is made. He looked at Martin straight in the eye for the first time tonight. Do you know how to make cocktails? Martin skillfully put up a shield. Old bastard Jack is the most versatile person in Merita. Vincent shook his head at the bar. Let me see. Martin took off his coat and put it on the high chair. His tight t-shirt exploded with hormones. He walked around the bar and patted Bruce. Man, this is not a job for civilized people. Bruce had already noticed Martin, and when he saw the boss nod, he took the initiative to step aside. Martin cleaned his hands, quickly scanned the various materials, and asked the nearest customer, "Madam, what do you need?" The woman who had just finished a glass of Long Island iced tea said, "Another one." As the name suggests, Long Island iced tea was born in Long Island, New York. For normal women, it is a strong cocktail, but it is suitable for the icy and cold taste in a hot atmosphere. Martin took action immediately. His movements were a little unfamiliar at the beginning. After preparing 4 base liquors, gin, vodka, rum and tequila, he gradually became proficient and regained his previous state. He added more than 2/3 of the icicles in the middle of the glass poured in the prepared liquor, sandwiched a slice of lemon for garnish, put in a straw, and handed it to the woman. Your drink. This glass used more than 1/3 less base liquor than Bruce. The female customer took a sip carefully. It suits me better than the previous one. After paying for the wine, she took out another $1 and pushed it in front of Martin. Bruce looked at Vincent again, spread his hands, and couldn't understand. Why didn't I have a tip? People came one after another. Customers who were willing to spend money did not mind ordering a cocktail. Some ordered common cocktails such as Pink Lady, Angel's Kiss and Manhattan. Martin worked very hard. If he did not run away, he would need a free job during the day to earn income to support his pursuit of opportunities in the industry he was good at. When no customers came for a while, Vincent called Martin and said, "Let's talk." Chapter 10 Weapons are the guarantee of being a civilized person. Martin used different ways to deal with different people at different times. He put a $7 tip in front of Vincent. Vincent pushed it back. The tip belongs to the individual. He asked directly, "How many cocktails do you know?" Martin stopped talking nonsense and said, "I can mix common cocktails. I dare not say that the level is particularly high, but at least it is average." In order to compete for a bartender role, he worked hard and practiced. Although he didn't get the role, he never gave up because he loved wine. It can be regarded as an ability accumulated over many years. Vincent asked, "How to save costs without affecting the taste?" Martin was already in the state. "I can guarantee that some of the mixed drinks will have higher profits." When getting tips, he has been observing carefully. The female customer is concerned about the stage, and the wine is only used to liven up the fun. She is not picky about the taste. As long as the basic taste is guaranteed, there will be no problem. Civilized people can sell such bad wine. Vincent's face suddenly darkened. "Are you a jerk like Jack?" "Mr. Lee, a powerful person like you, I wouldn't dare to lie to you, even if I had 10 guts." Martin now transformed into a small person full of awe. "The old jerk Jack was exposed by your wisdom, and my every move can't be hidden from your eyes." Vincent was very pleased and said, "You are the bartender of the Beast House, with an hourly wage of $8, and paychecks every 2 weeks. Paychecks are paid, and debts are settled at the same time. The most important income for this kind of work is tips." After his ability was recognized, Martin carefully probed, "I'm a member of the club, and the interest?" Vincent thought for a moment and said, "Only the total interest is calculated, and no more compound interest. You pay another $7,000 and the debt is settled." Martin felt a little relieved, so he could see if the Merita Theater had any opportunities. Prerequisite, you have to show me the value. Compared with the bartending ability, Vincent valued Martin's approach to Long Island iced tea more. Martin needed money. "When do I start work?" Vincent pointed to the bar. "Start now." Martin said no more and entered the bar. Just then, a customer asked for a Bloody Mary. This is one of the most famous cocktails, with many derivative recipes. Martin took the utensils from Bruce's hand and used a recipe improved by Americans after 2010. It is said to be more suitable for American tastes. It may suit the taste buds of the female customer, and the other party gave him a $2 tip directly. Bruce came over and whispered, "Get the boss's approval?" in a civilized way. Martin joked first, and then said, "I thought you were the security guard of the club." Bruce shook his head. "Times are different. There is no future in fighting and killing. In order to adapt to the changes of the times, I put down my gun and learned to mix drinks. Not to mention me, even the boss has learned to run a legal business." A woman came over to ask for a drink, and Martin stopped talking and concentrated on his work. It didn't take long for the total tip to exceed $15. The number of customers in and out of the club could not exceed 50, which became an obstacle for him to get more tips. Taking advantage of the free time, Martin asked, "Is business like this every day?" Bruce wiped the wine glass and said, "It's a little better on weekends. The club has just opened, and its reputation has not yet been truly established." Martin was surprised. "No advertising?" Bruce smiled like a civilized person. "You don't know? That's right, you don't understand." Being despised by the paper-licking maniac, Martin was not angry, but asked, "What do you mean?" Bruce straightened his shirt and looked like a cultured person. "Georgia local regulations. Clubs cannot directly advertise in the media and public places. The boss spent money to buy a recruitment notice and play a trick. Martin looked at the large empty space in the club. The effect is not very good. Bruce was very diligent. After wiping the wine glass and the bottle, he said, the boss said that the club is doing legitimate business and must abide by laws and regulations. Martin certainly didn't believe this. Usually with compound interest is called abiding by the law, or is it opening a legal place to launder money? The music sounded, and the handsome men on the circular stage performed in unison. The bar was idle, and Martin asked Bruce about the situation one by one. Vincent Lee invested a lot in the Beast House, hiring male dancers at high salaries, inviting professional choreographers from the Savannah School of the Arts, and hiring a public relations officer for promotion. After opening for nearly a month, there were some customers, but it was far from the expected goal. When the show ended in the evening, Martin received a tip of $21. Martin left the club and walked towards the minibus platform, where there were many taxi advertisements. A few dozen meters away, two black men with dreadlocks wearing black clothes suddenly appeared in the darkness where the street lights were broken. They were very talented and hid in the dark, so it was difficult to find them from a distance. Martin did not hesitate and turned around and ran. The two black men immediately chased him. Bruce, who was also off work, was walking towards Martin. He threw his open jacket behind him, touched his armpit with his right hand, took out a pistol, and pointed it forward, shouting, "Get out of here." The black man stopped, raised his hands, and stepped back step by step. Martin could see clearly that both of them had knives in their hands. The black man retreated far enough before turning around and running away. Martin realized that his perception of Bruce was seriously distorted and said, "Old Bruce, I'm such an idiot. Now I understand why you pulled out your gun when you were being civilized." Bruce put away his gun and said, "This is a guarantee of being a civilized person." Martin said, "Take a ride, $5. Bruce walked towards the Dodge pickup truck parked on the side of the road. "We are one family, so it's free." Martin was not polite either. He got on the passenger seat and said, "I'll find a way to get you a bunch of autographed photos later to meet your needs." Bruce started the car and drove northwest to Merita. "This is a great idea." Martin was completely defeated. Bruce said again, "I'll give you a suggestion. You need a car and a gun." Martin asked, "Are guns easy to get?" Bruce nodded. "The gun control in Georgia is not strict. It is easy to buy guns through formal channels. I don't recommend you to buy illegal guns. There will be a lot of trouble." He smiled honestly. "Want to buy a gun to practice shooting? I have a gun training certificate and only charge $10 an hour. I also know the owner of a used car dealership. Can I introduce you to him? Let me earn some agency fees." Sure enough, free is the most expensive. No wonder he didn't charge for the car fare. Martin gave a middle finger. Swindler. He also bought a used car so that he could run away if the situation was not right. Martin found that, since he woke up, he thought about running away the most. Shit like poor ghost, shit like running away. In the new book period, it is very important to follow up. It is related to the recommendation. Please open it every day. Chapter 11, Learning to be a civilized person. The bright sunlight brings warmth and a sense of security. Martin ran at a steady pace around the Clayton community. After his leg injury healed, he began to exercise systematically. If the poor guy wants to make a name for himself, he must have a good body. A rolling door opened, and Scott Carter came out of the grocery store with seaweed in his mouth and a bottle of wine in his hand. He spit out the seaweed that was left on his butt and shouted at Martin, "Idiot, aren't you tired? You have to know how to enjoy yourself." Martin was too lazy to pay attention to him and gave him the middle finger. Why exercise? Of course, it is for future enjoyment. After going back and taking a quick shower, Martin went to Carter's house next door for breakfast. Lily and Hall packed their school bags and prepared to go to school. Elena brought a fried egg sandwich. While eating, Martin asked Harris, who was flipping through a book, "Aren't you going to school?" Harris said, "I'm going to apply for college. It's more efficient to review at home than to go to a public high school. Good luck to you." After breakfast, Martin took out the tips he got last night from his pocket and threw them to Elena. "My food money. Elena was surprised. Idiot, are you crazy? Was your head hit by a nigger? Martin drank milk without raising his head. I found a new job as a bartender in the Beast House. Lily suddenly interrupted. Why not a gigolo? I'm saving money. With two bangs, Elena suppressed them with iron fists. Lily and Hall covered their noses and all became obedient. Martin finished his milk and said to Elena, I'm planning to buy a used car. Would you like to come with me? Elena picked up a chastity ring and put it on the ring finger of her left hand. I went to the Methodist church to help out this morning. The Methodist Association recently joined forces with the Atlanta Methodist Church to promote neoconservatism, and the free lunch they provided is very rich. It was the first time Martin heard this name. Methodist Association? Elena explained simply, a conservative organization. It has the same origin as the Methodist Church that claims to be law-abiding, and its philosophy is just as fucking conservative. Martin understood. So you put on the ring? Elena said, whoever provides more free food, I will believe in them. Lily was about to interrupt again, but Martin was prepared. If you don't want to be beaten into a pig's head, just shut up. Elena asked, you found a new job, shall we have a party to celebrate? When I'm done with this, call your friends and drive in my backyard. Martin pointed to the rented house. Recently, I always feel that James is not very peaceful lying down there. Call more people to dance on James' head. When he sees that we live a happy life, he will definitely feel at ease staying down there. Elena nodded. I'll call Monica and the others to come over. Martin called Bruce and met him in the south of the community. The two of them had agreed to go and look at cars together yesterday. Vincent Lee's family is involved in many businesses, including a used car dealership. Bruce is a close confidant of Vincent and can get a commission for introducing business to the car dealership. Among the cars recommended by the salesperson and Bruce, Martin chose a Ford. Of course, the price of $4,500 must be paid in installments. If it's cheaper, he's worried that it will break down on the road. After paying a down payment of $900 and completing the formalities, the two went to the gun store. Martin has no bad record and must buy legal firearms. The gun store has second-hand guns for sale. A Glock 17 that is 80% new, from a treasure hunter who is in a warehouse. Bruce disassembled it and inspected it carefully and suggested Martin to buy it. The pistol came with 2 magazines, a holster, gun oil, and 100 rounds of ammunition, totaling $380. Georgia has loose gun control, and the application for a pistol license is very fast. According to the owner of the gun store, the state government has even discussed a bill for carrying a pistol without a license or a cover. Entering the small shooting range that comes with the gun store, Martin took out 2 $5 bills and stuffed them into Bruce's pocket. Bruce put them away and said with a silly smile, before you go to work tonight, I'm yours. Martin reminded him, dude, you're a civilized person, and I have to be a civilized person too. Don't say things that are easy to be misunderstood. Bruce disassembled the magazine and asked, have you ever used a gun? Martin shrugged, I've only played with prop guns and toy guns. Bruce started teaching from turning the safety on and off and loading bullets, and reminded Martin, don't forget the poster you promised. Don't worry, don't worry. Martin pressed bullets into the empty magazine. Bruce took the money and taught very seriously, and Martin also learned very seriously. It's not only a survival skill, but also can be used to fight for a role. When Bruce taught shooting, he first explained the key points of the action, and then demonstrated it himself. His movements were swift and his shooting skills were good. He hit the target 10 meters away with every shot. Martin put on earplugs and fired several magazines one after another. At least he knew how to shoot with a pistol. As for shooting skills, it was not yet possible. Since you make me money, here are some advices. Bruce pulled a chair over and sat down, saying, when you meet the black scum from the south, just like last night, don't hesitate to show your gun when you should. It can ensure that we continue to be civilized people. Martin made up his mind to buy a gun and a car because of what happened last night and immediately responded, I will learn to be a civilized person from you. Bruce added, if you encounter a police raid, if you haven't committed a serious crime, you must do what the police say. Don't even think about touching the gun, or you, a rubbish rookie, will be emptied of bullets. Martin has seen too many videos about this and said, I won't give them a chance. Bruce added the last point, you are a rookie and can't scare people. If the other party still has a gun, quickly find a way to run away. Martin smiled and said, I will definitely run away like a jerk and then call you, an old bird, to get back at me. Bruce sighed, now is the era of civilized people. When I just left the army, I dared to hold an AR and shoot at people from other gangs. I was so stupid at that time. I didn't know that my life was my own. Martin asked, have you ever been a soldier? It happened in the 1990s. I was stationed in England. Bruce said, I was forced to retire. Martin was a little curious and asked, why? If it's inconvenient, just pretend I didn't ask. Bruce smiled innocently. A British soldier lost a bet with me, but didn't pay the chips. Don't the British call themselves civilized gentlemen? I used a civilized way to collect the debt. Martin praised, can I comment? You did a great job. Bruce asked, do you think it's civilized too? Martin clenched his fist and bumped it with Bruce. If there is such an opportunity again, call me. Bruce is a talent, and it's good to have a good relationship. In the next 2 days, Martin practiced shooting for an hour during the day, read the recruitment information in the newspaper, looking for the right opportunity, and went to work in the club at night. He could get about $20 in tips every night. If there were more customers in the club, this number would easily double. But the number of customers present at the Beast House at the same time rarely exceeded 50. On Wednesday afternoon, Martin received a notice from the Merita Theatre and went to the Midtown Art Theatre on Thursday to wait for the crew's selection. Chapter 12 Priority of Debts. Early Thursday morning, Martin drove his old Ford to the Midtown Art Theatre. Hundreds of people gathered in the theatre square next to Peachtree Street. This is a gathering place for temporary actors in Atlanta. To put it bluntly, it is a temporary labor market. Martin came here yesterday morning and encountered a TBS TV program selecting audience actors, but he was not selected. Whether in Los Angeles or Atlanta, the supply of grassroots actors far exceeds the demand. Lacking connections and no certain organization, even finding a pure background artist job requires luck. Martin found a place to park the car and saw Robert's big head when he entered the square. Robert had neatly combed hair and wore an old-fashioned formal suit. He said, wait a minute, the troop leader hasn't come yet. Martin looked at him briefly and said, is it specially made? Robert said, this way, the chance of being selected is greater. In fact, I don't have any other ideas. I just need a line. This really depends on luck. Martin said, good luck, man. People from the Merita Theatre arrived one after another, including Martin, all of whom were temporary workers and paupers. The head of the troupe, Jerome, drove a Lexus over and asked all the troupe members to wait at the edge of the square. He made a phone call and waited until a bus stopped at Peachtree Street. He shook hands with the fat man, who got off the bus, said a few words, and waved to the square, get on the bus. The fat man saw that there were no ugly people with particularly strange looks, so he said something to Jerome again, and then went to select temporary workers. Martin walked quickly and got on the bus first. He glanced at the first row of the front door, where there were folders on the inner seats. He chose a seat on the other side of the same row, and Robert went in. Martin sat on the outside and observed the square through the window. The fat man was selecting people. The selection method was very simple. He selected whoever he liked. Based on the information Martin had recently collected, it was not difficult to judge that Atlanta was far away from film and television production centers such as New York and Los Angeles, and the preferential policies had just been released. There was no mature temporary performance market and supporting agent system for the time being. Jerome was equivalent to an agent to some extent. The laws and regulations of California and New York did not apply here. The bus was soon full of people, and there was only a narrow aisle between the fat man and Martin. Martin did not strike up a conversation rashly. The bus drove not far along Peachtree Street when it suddenly slowed down. A parade appeared in front of them, close to the state capitol. There were also TV and newspaper reporters following them. The fat man stretched his neck and paid attention to the front. Instead of cursing, he said, make way for those people. When they pass the next intersection, we will turn around and take a detour. The name ATL Freedom Association was printed on the vests of the marchers. Martin judged the fat man's attitude, as if he was talking to himself. "Are you fighting for your legal rights?" The voice was not loud, but it could fall into the fat man's ears. The fat man casually said, "This is a famous liberal progressive group in Atlanta. They have done many great things." Martin determined that the fat man's position was biased towards the marchers, and immediately adjusted the position of his butt. "Are they doing great things this time?" The fat man obviously knew. Several conservative leaders of the Georgia Methodist Association declared that women are only family subordinates and must follow the will of the family, which triggered this protest. Martin said, "It's a very socially meaningful action." The fat man was proud. "One of the organizers of this event is Ms. Kelly Gray, the owner of our Gray Company." Unexpectedly, this fat guy is a good employee who is anxious about the boss. Martin quickly found a topic to get closer to him and said, "My friend, and many of her friends, have always wanted to join the Freedom Association, to do something for the rights of freedom. They can participate in socially meaningful activities like this at any time, but unfortunately they can't find a suitable introducer. As long as the meals are provided, Elena can pull hundreds of people out of the Clayton community, not to mention dozens of people. As for Elena's volunteer work in the Conservative Methodist Association, this is not the point. Elena said that, as long as the compensation is appropriate, it doesn't matter who you trust. I know many outstanding people in the association. The fat guy definitely has a future in Gray Company." He took the initiative to attract supporters for his boss. He took out his business card and handed it to Martin. "I'm Andrew. If you want to join, call me anytime." Martin took it and put it away solemnly, took out the prepared business card and handed it over. "Martin Davis." Just before the bus turned out of Peachtree Street, another parade team entered Peachtree Street, holding the flag of the Methodist Church. The two sides cursed each other in the air, and the city was in an uproar. The happiest people were the media reporters. The bus drove for more than half an hour and arrived at a farm in the north of Atlanta. The crew rented the farm and temporarily built some 19th century plantation style scenery next to the wooden house that served as a temporary dressing room. Actors dressed in old-fashioned costumes had already finished their makeup. Martin got off the bus and found that the head of the group, Jerome, was waiting at the entrance of the farm. Andrew found Jerome and said directly, "There are two special roles. The daily salary is calculated as $100. The working time ends at 4:30 p.m. Overtime is calculated at $10 per hour. You can call more of your best actors to come. The hourly salary for pure temporary performances is only $5.15. Jerome immediately remembered that the idiot Martin still owed him dues, and he was the first to call Martin's name. "Martin, come here." Then he shouted, "Cola, Robert, Jones. No one can owe me money." Jerome said to the fat man Andrew again, "Martin is good, you can give him priority." Andrew remembered this name, and when the person arrived, he called Martin, "Martin Davis, and, you, follow me." Robert, who followed Martin, became another lucky person. Jerome led the two to the cabin, and the rest of the people could only follow the production staff to the outdoor temporary makeup area. Robert poked Martin, and Martin signaled him to shut up with his eyes. The two followed Jerome to the cabin, waited for a while, and were notified to go in for makeup. While putting on makeup and changing clothes, an assistant came over to talk about the play. There are no lines, but there are a lot of movements. The two played the assassins who assassinated the heroine. They rushed to the garden, where the heroine was with guns, and were shot by the hero. Then the hero and heroine fell in love after the hero rescued the beauty. In other words, to shoot this scene, Martin and Robert need to lie dead the whole time. The background artist who lies dead on the ground is of course paid more than the background artist who stands. Robert is a senior background, not to mention Martin. There was no difficulty in the front, and it was done strictly according to the movement requirements. It was passed after 2 takes. The director called a cut once, and it was still the hero who accidentally dropped the gun. Then the highlight came, and the two lay on the ground motionless. The hero and heroine embraced each other affectionately. Chapter 13 Trump Card. After removing his makeup and changing his clothes, Martin came out of the temporary dressing room and went to a place where he would not interfere with other people's work. After a brief observation, he found the fat man Andrew. While the other party was free, he walked over and said, "Mr. Andrew." Andrew still remembered Martin. "Didn't you go to collect the money? Can't find the finance office?" Martin smiled and said, "I just happened to see you when I came out, so I came to say thank you." Andrew had a good impression of him. "You did a good job." The fat man was an employee who followed the boss's footsteps. Martin changed the subject. "I will see a friend later and ask her to contact friends with the same aspirations. I will trouble Mr. Andrew for help then." "No problem." Andrew thought for a while and said, "Since you support freedom and progress and are willing to contribute, you should also pay more attention to social current affairs. If you encounter something that is not conducive to freedom, notify me in time." He has said similar things to many people he knows in order to please the boss. In order to get promoted, he followed the boss's footsteps. Martin naturally agreed. A brand new BMW 7 Series drove over the farmer's road, attracting a lot of attention, and Andrew's eyes also turned to that side. The car stopped, and the young female assistant who got off the passenger seat opened the back door. A short-haired woman in a business suit lowered her head and got out of the car. Andrew waved at Martin and strode over there. Martin asked the passing extras, "Who is that? So impressive." The extras kept walking and said casually, "The boss of the company." Martin understood that this was Kelly Gray, a core member of the ATL Free Association. He soon discovered that Andrew could not talk to Kelly Gray, but was very familiar with the female assistant. Robert suddenly flashed from behind. "Let's go get the money together. I want a damn big dinner tonight. Man, you kept me waiting for so long, and you won't treat me tonight?" Martin asked. Robert followed him to the finance office. Some other day. It was not even 4 o'clock yet, and the scenes belonging to the two had been filmed. They each signed a check for $100 and came to the place where the extras gathered. Martin saw Jerome and went straight over. "Captain, this is today's salary. I will pay the dues." Now he can be sure that Jerome has certain abilities and connections in the Atlanta low-level actor market. It was much better than him running around aimlessly. Of course, the money couldn't be paid all at once. There were more than 20 people in the troupe, both old and new. Jerome had to keep him in mind. Jerome put away the check and was very satisfied with Martin's attitude. He thought of paying back the money as soon as he made money. Sure enough, he didn't make a mistake. There was still $200 left. "Don't worry, he will pay it back soon." People's hearts are sometimes complicated. Jerome was in a good mood and asked one more question. "Do you have living expenses? You can leave some." Martin said, "I work in a nightclub at night, and the income can maintain basic living." Jerome put away the money, and Martin took the opportunity to ask about the situation of Gray Film and Television Production Company. This is a local Atlanta enterprise, not large in scale, and has never produced theater movies. It often cooperates with cable TV stations to shoot late-night programs. It also invests part of the funds every year to produce videotape movies and directly promote them to the DVD market. The boss Kelly Gray studied at the University of Southern California, mixed in Hollywood, and was greatly influenced by Californians. She is currently a relatively active liberal in Atlanta. A little after 4 o'clock, a large number of extras returned, and Martin and Robert followed the group on the bus and returned to downtown Atlanta. Martin got the car, had a quick dinner, and rushed to West Avenue. Before he parked the car, the door of a Wrangler 2 parking spaces away opened, and a loud shouting of "F" was heard. Martin got out of the car and locked the door. A black woman with a thick waist and but as big as a bucket and dreadlocks got out from the passenger seat of the Wrangler. She pointed at the car and cursed, "You loser, how dare you pick up girls in front of me? If I didn't pay you, how dare you become what you are today? Now that you are rich, how dare you give me a bad face?" A bald black man got out from the other side. "Who are you calling loser? Believe it or not, I will divorce you and kick you out." The hot-tempered black woman got anxious and pulled out a bright silver pistol from her basketball-like chest. "Boyert, I will beat the shit out of you." Not to be outdone, Bald Boyard pulled out an M1911. Come on, let's see who will finish first. The old black couple pointed their guns at each other and looked like they would open fire at any time. Martin quickly moved away and came to the entrance of the club. He found that the stubborn Ivan was in high spirits and asked, "Do you know these two psychopaths?" Ivan pointed to his head and said, "Aren't all of them sick?" Bruce came out from the porch and slapped Ivan on the head. "Don't say such troublesome words at the door. We are civilized people." Ivan felt very wronged. "I'm talking about the recognized fact. They are just like normal people at ordinary times. When they get emotional, they become brainless beasts." At the entrance of the black bar opposite, someone ran out to persuade the black couple. Martin asked, "Who are the people opposite?" Bruce said, "The man is called Boyert, the owner of the black bar, and the woman is his wife, Betty. They have a background in the black gang in South City." Martin scratched his head. "The couple quarreled and used guns." Bruce lowered his voice. "The black gang has extremely serious violent tendencies." Martin remembered that he would stay away from the two black men next time he met them. The two entered the club, changed their clothes, and went to work. There were very few customers tonight, and at most there were no more than 30 people. Martin took the $1 tip and put it in his pocket. Bruce envied. "I heard that every bartender has a special skill. Do you have one?" Martin said, "Of course I do." He stretched out his hand to Bruce, "But I won't show it to civilized people, because civilized people like poster tastes." It can't be said that he has a special skill, but he knows a few cocktails that have not appeared or become popular in this era, such as paper airplanes. The tall and thin blonde man with ponytail came in from outside and complained to Bruce when he saw him, "Who is that bastard at the door? He actually asked me to buy a ticket to enter." Martin didn't need to ask. It must be Ivan. Bruce just smiled foolishly. The man with ponytail turned his eyes to Martin. "Handsome, you are wasting resources by selling alcohol. Vincent made a mistake. He put you in the wrong position." As he spoke, he went up to the second floor. Martin asked with his eyes. Bruce replied, "The boss hired Michael, the nightclub's public relations officer. It should be, because the customer flow is not improving, so the boss called him over. This guy's going to be in trouble." He teased Martin. "The bartender has to work part-time as a scavenger. It's our job to deal with Michael's body. Can you use strong acid? Can you remove bones?" Martin said seriously, "I will let civilized people lick him into a big hole." Bruce's face was serious. "You still owe me a month's poster and a big butt actress. The former is easy to solve, but the latter is too troublesome." Martin forced to change the subject. "If the club closes, you will be unemployed." Bruce said, "No, the boss still has a trump card." Martin was curious. "What trump card?" "Solicit opinions from your subordinates." Bruce was obviously not joking. "Choose the best option from them." He looked around the club. "When we changed our business, someone suggested opening a gigolo club. The boss made a choice and went to Las Vegas to investigate and then opened the House of Beasts." Martin thought to himself, "No wonder the business was not good. The club originated from this unreliable method." He looked at the empty venue and thought carefully. When they were free again, Martin asked, "The club is not doing well. Where are the people who made suggestions?" Bruce pointed to the circular stage and said, "The boss made Heart dance on it until things get better." Chapter 14. No benefit, no effort. In the office on the second floor of the Beast House, Vincent wore his cowboy hat pulled down low on his head, casting a large shadow on his face, with his protruding hooked nose seeming to peck at people's hearts. Michael, the nightclub PR, felt inexplicably flustered and quickly covered it up with words. "The House of Beasts has been open for less than a month. It needs time to accumulate customers, fame, and word of mouth. He has promoted bars that were mainly for male customers, but this is the first time that it is mainly for female customers. He cannot take the blame. You are too impatient. Running a business requires a process." Vincent said calmly, "That's not what you said when you took the commission 25 days ago." Thinking of the $10,000 commission, Michael cheered up. "Give me another month. It's not that I don't work hard, but the environment has problems. The money can't be returned." He doesn't have so much money. "You also know that the damn Georgia regulations. We can't advertise directly in the media and shopping malls. We can only do private promotion." Now the Conservative Methodist Association is making trouble everywhere, and media opinion is fanning the flames. Vincent didn't even raise his eyelids. What about the big stars you promised to come to the club for entertainment? Direct advertising is impossible, but there is no problem with side news reports of big stars appearing in the club. Michael said, I'm still in contact. Vincent raised his head slightly. His hooked nose became even sharper. If you can't invite Julia Roberts as a female star from Georgia, Holly Hunter will do. Michael was dumbfounded. These two Oscar-winning actresses. Vincent said slowly, you asked for $10,000, and I gave it to you. Do you know why? Michael said with a stiff face, I'm worth it. Vincent raised a finger. First, I want to use money to motivate you. He raised another finger. Second, I'm sure I can get the corresponding price back. Michael leaned forward and pleaded unconsciously, give me a little more time. Vincent picked up the phone and called the bar. Bruce, notify everyone to clear the place in 15 minutes. No one is allowed to leave work. An internal meeting will be held. Michael couldn't stop worrying, sweat on his forehead. What are you going to do? The Beast House is a legitimate business place that abides by the law and will not do anything illegal. Vincent stood up and walked out. I want to gather my men and listen to their opinions. Seeing that he was not going to be killed, Michael was relieved and said, you would rather believe those idiots who can't even read newspapers than give professionals a little more time. Vincent went straight out. He also wanted to believe professionals, but professionals did not bring in customers. Michael hurried to follow. 15 minutes later, all the staff of the Beast Club, including the male dancers, stood near the stage. Martin and Bruce stayed on the far left, waiting for the boss to speak. Vincent stood on the circular stage, glanced at everyone, and said, you all know the flow of customers in the club. Do you have any ideas? Hart, the leader of the stylish men's group, was the first to say, boss, let's go back to our old business. Vincent said, Bruce, if Hart says this kind of nonsense again, you should throw him into the Atlantic Ocean in the most civilized way. Hart glanced at Bruce, his lips trembling. I shut up. Michael followed Hart's gaze and saw Martin again, thinking. Vincent asked, where are the others? No one spoke for the time being. Martin had some ideas, but the boss didn't mention whether there were any benefits. Who would bother to do something that has no benefits? A worker should have the awareness of a worker. Very good. You are worthy of being my brother. You won't do anything without reward. Vincent slightly raised his cowboy hat. Whoever can double the number of customers in the Beast House and double the salary will be rewarded with $10,000. Hearing the $10,000 reward, Michael couldn't help but jump out and said, I have an idea. Everyone looked at Michael, but Michael pointed at Martin. As long as he cooperates, I can solve it. Martin was puzzled. Michael was afraid that someone else would take away the bonus. Why can't the club attract a large number of customers? Because we lack star-level dancers. He pointed at Martin. With his conditions and professional choreography training, I can make him a superstar in Atlanta. Martin thought, what kind of hatred do you want to kill me? He immediately interrupted, boss, this guy is exaggerating. I admit that I'm good looking, but I can't be as good as he said, and Hart and the others are not bad either. Vincent's trust in Michael has collapsed, and his eyes turned. Ivan, throw him out. Ivan and his golden-haired little brother dragged Michael out. Michael wanted to shout, but he felt something on his waist and quickly shut up. Vincent asked, what about you? Including Bruce. Everyone turned their eyes to Hart, and then immediately retracted their gazes. Hart's brother was swollen every day, and they didn't want this. Seeing the benefits, Martin became an excellent worker and said, boss, I have an idea. Vincent looked at the other silent subordinates and turned upstairs. Come with me. Martin was about to follow, but Bruce suddenly said, I heard that veterinarian Bill has a way to treat cattle and sheep. You'd better consult in advance. Don't mention veterinarians to me. Martin gave Bruce a middle finger and followed Vincent to the second floor. Bruce waited for a long time but nothing happened. Hart clapped his hands and shouted to the other male dancers, guys, clean up a cabinet in the locker room. We are going to have a new guy. Bruce picked up a high stool. Hart turned around and left. Bruce, you said you wanted to be a civilized person. The office on the second floor was quiet, and Vincent's face was still covered in the shadow of the cowboy hat. Martin's words just now were beyond his and even his father's and brother's cognition, and were completely beyond their comprehension. Vincent asked, "Where did you learn all this?" "I'm an actor. I've been running around the crew since I was 16, studying media hype, and I dream of becoming famous." With Martin's acting skills, it sounded like the truth. "I've seen a lot of successful film and television cases, and I understand the style of the media." Vincent asked, "How sure are you?" Martin thought for a moment and said, 60%. Vincent asked again, "What do you need?" Martin said, "Bruce, find a few more reliable people to assist me, and the labor and other expenses incurred during the period. The club will take care of it." Vincent was generous when it came to encouragement. "As long as you succeed, your debt will be eliminated, your salary will double, and you'll get a $5,000 bonus." Martin didn't ask about failure. Hart was an example. As a gigolo, he was mentally prepared. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15: Why Humans Go Extinct. In the classroom of the Methodist Association's training center, Elena was looking through the training materials distributed by the teacher. She recognized individual letters and most of the words, but when they were combined into sentences, she couldn't understand what they meant. The computer software operation explained by the teacher on the podium was almost like a heavenly book. This was a free skills training, provided to believers by the Methodist Church and the Methodist Association. Because free food would be distributed after the training, Elena resisted leaving, even though she was drowsy. The food was enough for breakfast tomorrow, and with Martin, the idiot, she could save at least $6. Harris wanted to apply for college, and even if he went to a cheap public school, the fees would be high. These troubles were so complicated that Elena's head exploded. After finally getting through the training, Juliet at the next table asked, "Are you going to the mutual aid meeting tomorrow afternoon?" "I haven't decided yet." Even though Elena's face was thicker than the wall, she still felt it was ridiculous. Juliet was very enthusiastic. "Go, let's go together. Ms. Jennifer will host tomorrow afternoon and bring gifts." Hearing about the gifts, Elena restrained the swear words that came out of her mouth and said, "I'll think about it and give you an answer tomorrow morning." The mutual aid meeting hosted by the Methodist Association is held every week. After Elena received the food, she came out of the training center. The headlights of the Ford car flashed, illuminating the night. She ran over and got on the passenger seat. Martin started the car and turned his head to take a look. There are a lot of good things. Of course. Elena put 2 large paper bags on the back seat. Who would listen to these idiotic courses if they don't give out things? Martin said from the side, "Learn more skills and find a stable job." Elena said, "I just want to make money." Martin understood her family's situation and said, "I got a job from my boss and need help. If you do a good job, you will get at least $500 in compensation. This is the expense calculated separately by the club." Elena thought of the last time Idiot Harris breaks his arm again. "I have no problem. No need to be so cruel." Martin said roughly, "Are you familiar with the people in the Methodist Association?" Elena shrugged. "Fortunately, I can talk to them. They are all extremely conservative people." She remembered what Juliet said. The Methodist Association will have mutual aid meeting tomorrow. It is said that an important person named Jennifer will host it and will bring gifts. I hope it is not a damn paper crane and Lucky Star. Martin thought for a while. "Will you take the job? If you do, go to participate tomorrow." Elena asked back, "You want me to participate in that event?" Martin smiled and said, "Go. Do me a favor. Contact more people and invite them to the club for free to drink and have fun." Elena said, "I'll call Monica. There will be free food and nightclubs. No need to mobilize." The Ford drove into the Clayton community, and Martin drove into the backyard of the house and stopped at the place where James was buried. The wheels compacted the ground. James did not say anything against it, which meant that the two did the right thing. It was almost noon when Bruce parked his pickup truck, carrying a pile of newspapers and materials, and entered the beast's house. Except for the idiot Ivan who was guarding the porch, the only idiot in the club was Martin. Bruce put the things on the circular stage and asked, "Why can you tell me to do things?" Martin threw him a can of beer and opened another can himself, saying, "This is the difference between smart people and civilized people." Bruce sat on the stage. "They are all betting on how long you will be on this stage." Martin boasted, "My dancing is scary." With a backflip, the earth explodes on the spot, and mankind becomes extinct. Bruce drank up the beer and threw the can accurately into the trash can. "This is the first time I have discovered that people can be as shameless as you. Because you have too little experience." Martin also threw away the can, took out 2 sets of pens and notebooks, and gave one set to Bruce. "Stop talking nonsense and do what Boss Martin tells you to do." He took a pile of newspapers and magazines. The main paper media, radio stations and TV stations in Atlanta have news hotlines, and there are awards for collecting news. Write down all the corresponding media phone numbers, and Boss Martin will help you make a fortune. "We can't break the law. We are civilized people," Bruce complained, but his hands were not slow, and he worked quickly. Northwest of the Atlanta metropolitan area, bordering Marietta, Elena joined Juliet and entered the Methodist branch. They arrived at the large conference room, where 7 or 8 people sat on chairs in a large circle. Jennifer, who was dressed conservatively, waved to 2 people to come over and sit down. A few minutes later, another 5 people rushed to the conference room. Jennifer presided over this chastity mutual aid meeting and said loudly, "You are willing to purify your body and mind and become the glory and pride of your family. I'm proud of you." She looked around and asked, "Then who should start?" A girl in her 20s stood up first and told her experience. Juliet followed and winked at Elena when she sat down. Elena was preparing herself mentally to avoid her habitual swearing. She stood up slowly and said in the encouraging eyes of everyone, "I want to talk about a painful experience that haunts me like a nightmare. I hope to use your power to help me purify this unclean memory." Jennifer smiled warmly. "Child, please speak out boldly." Elena tried her best to practice with Martin, with her eyes wide open and a look of horror on her face. "One night last weekend, my friend and I accidentally walked into a bar called Beast House on West Street. Everything there was too crazy." She racked her brains to describe the depravity of Beast House and the negative impact it had on the people around her. At some point, Jennifer took out a pen and a notebook and asked, "West Street, Beast House?" Elena said, "Yes. For some unspeakable reasons, some content in the following chapters has been deleted. You can join the book club. Group number 729,765,122. Chapter 16. Fabricating News. Please read. What happens when a bartender temporarily works as a club manager? Martin will tell the person asking the question that, if he doesn't go crazy, he will get old. In the staff lounge of the club, Martin received a text message from Elena and pushed open the door of the locker room to go in. The handsome men led by Hart are preparing for the evening performance. Martin banged on the door and shouted, "Big stars, are you ready? I have good news for you. A large number of customers will come tonight. As long as you perform well, the club's business will be booming in the future, and you will receive a lot of tips." Hart asked, "Can it really be like you said?" Martin was full of confidence. "The number of customers will at least double, and your income will double." Another handsome man, Carrington, blew the hooligan whistle and said, "Man, you have to do what you say, otherwise we will drag you to the stage to perform." Martin said seriously, "You can doubt my character, but you should not doubt my credit. Carrington, you are finished. I swear, you will be thrown into the Atlantic Ocean by Old Bull." The others laughed. Martin raised his voice again. "Guys, you have practiced dancing for so long. Show your best tonight and let people see what Popey is. If you can't do it, I will let Bruce inform everyone on West Street that the handsome men's group in the Beast House are a bunch of losers." Hart smiled and said, "Don't worry, we won't give you a chance." Martin raised his middle finger behind his head, strode out, walked around the backstage, entered the hall, and found Monica at the bar. She is Elena's good friend, a plump Latin girl. Martin asked, "How is it?" Monica quickly said, such a good free opportunity. The people I brought will not let it go. It's free. Martin glanced at the quartz clock behind the bar and said, 10 minutes later. Before leaving, Monica blew Bruce a kiss. Martin noticed that Bruce was staring at Monica's back and said, are you interested in her? I'm a civilized person. Bruce picked up a glass of cold beer and drank it in one gulp. Martin emphasized, I know you are a civilized person. 10 minutes later, Elena and Jennifer bought 2 tickets and entered the Beast House together. Seeing Elena, Martin asked someone to notify the Handsome Boy group to come on stage. With the explosive music, the Handsome Boy group performed Spinach Dance for all the customers in the audience. The whole audience immediately got excited. Jennifer found that many people had forgotten their family responsibilities and their position in the family, and they threw money crazily on the stage. Debauchery and decadence, Atlanta's social atmosphere is sliding into the abyss. Jennifer and like-minded partners have been trying to hold it back and don't want it to slide. However, social moral problems across the United States are becoming more and more serious. After staying for less than half an hour, Jennifer said to Elena, let's go. Elena followed her out of the Beast House. Jennifer said, you go back first. I have something to do at the Atlanta headquarters. Elena nodded, waited for Jennifer to drive away, and got into Martin's Ford. Not long after, Martin came out of the club and got in the car. Elena said she was very angry and went to the headquarters. Martin patted Elena on the shoulder and said, keep in touch with her. On Saturday afternoon, Martin was practicing facial muscle control in front of the mirror at home when he suddenly received a call from Ivan. People began to gather opposite the club. Martin picked up the car keys and left. He asked Elena first, and then notified Bruce and the little golden retriever. When they came to West Street, Martin found that people of different ages came one after another along both sides of the road and gathered on the spacious sidewalk opposite the club. Many people carried posters and other things in their hands. Core members of the Methodist Association, such as Jennifer, are experienced. In the porch of the Beast's house, Martin took off his coat and threw it on the chair and asked, what's the situation? Bruce stuck his head out to sea and said, there are more people coming. I estimate there will be 200 people. Whose mobile phone has a call recording function? Martin asked. Ivan said, I have mine, and also those of Golden Retriever, Hart, and Kirrington. Martin made a prompt decision. Old Bruce, find all the hotline numbers we have collected. Call the media reporters, tell them that there is big news here, and be sure to record the call. No one can owe our news informants a reward. Ivan was so shocked that his eyes became cross-eyed, as if he saw a bunch of money. I would like to call you Boss Martin. Bruce grabbed Martin's shoulders and reminded him, there is no reward for fake news. Martin took out his mobile phone and said, old civilized man, you underestimate the civilized people of the new era. He found the number of Fatty Andrew in the address book and dialed it. The other end quickly answered, Mr. Andrew, it's me, Martin. I found a situation on West Street, so I called this number. Chapter 17. Assistant Ella and several people tried their best to stop them, but the boss Kelly Gray was still hit. Someone pinched her hard, and a yellow-brown mark appeared on her white work jacket, which gave off an unpleasant smell. Kelly Gray, who came from a good family, had never experienced such a scene before. She was so scared that her face turned pale, and she felt that she would be drowned at any time. Suddenly, a strong male voice came from behind. Come here, come here. Kelly Gray turned her head and saw a young man in a tight t-shirt rushing out of the Beast House with several people. Bruce cooperated with Martin and forced her way to help Martin rush to Kelly Gray. Martin pushed away the people who rushed over, but more people rushed over. He grabbed Kelly Gray's arm with one hand and a brown-haired woman in her 40s with the other hand and shouted, hurry up, go. Kelly Gray hurried to the Beast House. Martin protected them and walked back. Taking advantage of the chaos, he went around the back of his neck with his right hand and scratched the left side of his neck. The group entered the door of the Beast House. Kelly Gray was still terrified and shouted, close the door. Close the damn door. Her own safety was far more important than her colleagues fighting outside. Martin saw that all his people had returned, and he and Bruce closed the door and locked it from the inside. It's crazy. They are all crazy. 5 more people followed in. The 40-year-old Rachel was terrified. Those people are all crazy. Martin said at this time, it's chaotic outside. You stay here for a while. Sirens sounded outside, and a large number of APD arrived. But Kelly Gray didn't want to go out at all, and followed Martin inside. Okay. She saw the bar and the wine cabinet. Can you give me a glass of liqueur? Bruce put out 6 glass cups, and poured peach liqueur. Martin took out a small package of wet wipes, handed one to each person, and handed it to Kelly Gray, then stood beside her, opened the last package, and wiped his neck. Kelly Gray wiped her hands and the places on her body where she was scratched, smelled the pungent smell of her coat, took it off, and threw it aside, and suddenly heard a grinning voice. She turned her head, and saw that the young man who saved them had 3 bloody marks on his neck that were particularly eye-catching. Thank you. Kelly Gray calmed down a little and asked, is the injury serious? Martin smiled and said, I was scratched by someone. It's okay. In fact, we should say thank you. You are protecting us. This man is good looking, speaks well, and was injured for saving her. Kelly Gray was deeply impressed. Ivan came over, looked at Martin's neck, and cursed. Who hurt you? I'm going to beat him into a pig's head. Martin wanted to kick him, but he held back, and remembered it in his heart, saying, it's crazy. I didn't expect things to turn out like this. Bruce handed Ivan a trash can, and asked him to put away the used wet wipes, and take out the trash, and not be an idiot here. Kelly Gray drank half a glass of wine, and her thoughts gradually came back. She asked, why are you targeted? Martin told the truth. This afternoon, those people suddenly gathered outside the club. Kelly Gray frowned and thought. Martin selectively told the truth. I know Mr. Andrew from your company. Mr. Andrew told me that, if I find any behavior against you, I will inform him in time. I called Mr. Andrew. Kelly Gray remembered Andrew, an old employee of her company. Martin moved his neck slightly, and gritted his teeth in pain. Sorry, I didn't expect things to. Kelly Gray waved her hand. It has nothing to do with you. The road to freedom has always been difficult. Yes. Martin was helpless. We didn't provoke anyone, but those stubborn and crazy guys took the initiative to attack us. Rachel, who went to the porch, came back at this time and said, APD has controlled the situation. Kelly, do you want to go out to take charge of the situation? Hearing that she was going out, Kelly Gray was unwilling to do so. But she couldn't say this. In addition to Rachel, there were several ordinary members. Abandoning her companions would affect her leadership. Kelly Gray was secretly annoyed, not sure if Rachel did it on purpose. Martin was good at observation and guessing, and took the initiative to speak. I suggest that you don't go out. The conflict that just happened will cause many brothers and sisters to be detained by the APD. You are the backbone. Once you are detained by the police, who will actively rescue those people. This statement from an outsider is completely different from Kelly Gray's own words. The person who accompanied Rachel to the porch immediately said, yes, there are many people detained by the APD. We can't keep them in custody all night. Kelly Gray looked at Martin with more appreciation in her eyes and asked, is there a back door to the club? Martin said, yes, it's in a quiet alley. Kelly Gray took out her cell phone and made a call. I'm at the Beast House on West Street. Sent a cashier immediately to the back door. Rachel didn't say anything else. Kelly Gray considered the situation tonight, got up and walked to a deserted place, nodded to Martin. Let's talk alone. Martin followed her to the other side of the stage. Kelly Gray asked, what's your name? Can you make the decision? Martin Davis. Just call me Martin. Okay, Martin, this incident tonight will have a big impact. Kelly Gray planned to promote public opinion. The media will interview you later. Do you know what to do? Martin said righteously. In order to protect the Beast's house and innocent people, you took the initiative to stand up to protect the Beast's house, and were forced to defend yourself. He emphasized, you are heroes. Kelly Gray was completely calm at this time. Very good. Remember your position. Martin immediately said, I'm always on your side. Introduce yourself. Kelly Gray considered Martin's importance and gave him a business card. My name is Kelly Gray. She emphasized, before the reporter interviews, remember to notify me. I will ask someone to assist you. Martin asked, the reporter is interviewing tonight. Kelly Gray said, I will arrange someone to come as soon as possible. Soon, the pickup vehicle arrived at the back door of the club. Martin took Bruce and sent Kelly Gray and his party away. There was no one else around, so Bruce said, I underestimated you. You turned the old-fashioned hero saving the beauty story into something special. Martin shrugged, it's just that the classics are useful. Chapter 18. Getting the best of both worlds. In the office on the second floor of the club, Vincent sat on the sofa, pressing the remote control, and the TV screen kept switching between several news channels. On the TV screen, large close-ups of the Beast House Club appeared many times. Vincent changed a few more channels, and in the relevant real-time news, the Beast House frequently flashed on the news screen. There was a lot of noise downstairs, but Vincent didn't go to see it. In about half an hour, he saw close-ups of the Beast House on the programs of 5 TV stations. It will definitely become the focus of social news in the newspaper tomorrow. Not to mention how much money it costs to achieve such media coverage. According to relevant Georgia regulations, the Beast House does not even have the opportunity to advertise directly. Martin Davis, this idiot, is really a talent. Vincent poured a glass of whiskey and sipped it slowly. There was a knock on the door, and he answered it. Martin came in from outside and said, Boss, there is a situation. Vincent pointed to the sofa. Sit down and talk. We just rescued Kelly Gray. Martin quickly recounted what happened before. Vincent asked, what do you think? Martin said, they can become our largest potential customer group. Do as you wish. The previous operation gave Vincent confidence in Martin. Martin said one last thing. There will be media reporters coming to interview soon. Will you come out to receive them? Vincent was worried. I'm not suitable to appear in front of the media. I will deal with it. Martin got a clear answer from Vincent, went downstairs to meet a public relations staff sent by Kelly, quickly exchanged opinions, and prepared to open the door of the club. At the same time, the back door of the club opened, and 8 people, including Bruce and Ivan, went around the alley to West Street, holding their mobile phones, to find their respective targets. TV reporter Maya had just finished her busy work, and came to the interview car to get a bottle of water, and found a man with a silly smile holding a mobile phone. She said, the TV station is working, please don't get close. Bruce raised his cell phone. I called the news hotline. I'm here to collect the bonus. Maya said, go to the TV station tomorrow, or leave your email address. Bruce knew little bit about it, and said, don't waste time, okay? I know you have bonuses for breaking news clues. Maya didn't want to say more. This is against the regulations. Before coming out, Bruce had been taught by Martin, and lowered his voice and said, today's incident was caused by the Beast House. I can help you contact someone at the Beast House. Maya became interested as soon as she heard it. The Beast House, as the focus, has always been closed. After tonight, this male dancer club is bound to become the focus of Atlanta's social news. She took the bag, took out a $50 check, and put it in front of Bruce. Do you promise? Bruce took the check, looked at the number, put it away first, and said, this is the reward for the last news. Now for this news, you have to pay me $100. Maya hesitated for a moment, took out a $100 check. Bruce wanted to take it. She took it back. You contact someone first. Bruce called Martin, but it was hard to answer the phone. He handed it to Maya, someone from the Beast House. Martin, this bastard, even let others take the blame for this. Maya said a few words to the person on the phone, handed the check to Bruce, and called his assistant. Drive the TV broadcast car to the door of the Beast House. Bruce put away the check and left, and soon turned into a deep alley. Maya came to the door of the Beast House, and found that there was a rattling sound behind the door of the club, as if it was unlocking. Colleagues who were scattered around looking for people to interview came over one after another. Maya saw Dyke from the Atlanta Constitution and asked, why are you here? Dyke was a little hesitant at first, but when he saw many colleagues coming over, he simply said, a news informant contacted the people in the Beast House for me. Maya's face was grim. $100? You too? Me too. Me too. All the reporters who came over were like this, and they all held their faces. Maya said, what a bunch of assholes. It's easy to guess that it was someone in the club who did it, but they still had to bite the bullet and go for the interview, and no one wanted to leave. The door of the club opened, and Martin walked out first. The cameras all turned around, and the reporters were excited. After the interview, Martin returned to the club. The PR expert sent by Kelly said, "You did a great job. If you have any follow-up questions, please contact me as soon as possible." After the man left, Bruce came over and reminded him specifically, "Dude, you are a man." Martin said, "As long as it is beneficial to us, I don't mind sending you to Thailand." Bruce gave him a middle finger, took out a check, and asked, "Will those reporters scold us if we do this?" "Dude, you are used to being a civilized person and have never dealt with the media. I tell you, don't be afraid of being scolded when you stand up to the media." Martin was very careless. "Do you think they won't scold us if we please them? You think too highly of them. Let them scold you. Being scolded is also being famous, and the House of the Beast needs to be famous." He asked, "Does the club have a legal advisor?" After a few days, when the news heats up, hold a press conference and send a lawyer's letter to the Methodist Church. This matter can be hyped several times. Ivan and others came back with checks one after another and asked, "What should we do with the bonuses?" Martin didn't raise his head, but he noticed that Vincent came to the fence on the second floor and said, "Leave it to the boss. Everyone who participates tonight will get a share." Vincent was very generous, as it was not the club's money. "Martin takes 30%, and you guys divide the rest." Martin counted the amount of the checks and said with disdain, "You shameless people actually took back $1,200. A bunch of middle fingers were raised in front of Martin. Chapter 19. The club explodes. Yesterday's chaos was over. West Street was cleaned up, and the order of the past was restored. The sun had just set, and before the opening time of Beast House, there was already a line of dozens of people in front of the club. People came one after another and joined the line. The news reports of multiple TV stations last night and the bombardment of print media led by the Atlanta Constitution today made the Beast House Male Dancer Club famous. The entire metropolitan area of Atlanta has a population of more than 5 million, and the number of potential customers of Beast House is not small. Just a small part of them is enough to make Beast House burst. The line is long, and there are curious passers-by joining in the fun. It is close to 6 o'clock and they are ready to open the door early. Ivan and Golden Retriever came to the porch. The former took out a check and stuffed it into the Golden Retriever's hands. "Keep the damn check, and don't buy any random stuff." The Golden Retriever looked at the number. "So much." Ivan said, "Idiot, Martin is loyal." The Golden Retriever emphasized, "Boss Martin." Ivan saw the long line outside the door and said, "Martin's work is cheap, but it's really effective, much better than the useless public relations." The two opened the door and shouted to the long line of female customers, "Tickets are $20. Prepare the money in advance." One by one, $20 bills were stuffed into their hands. The two of them held a thick stack of tickets. The ticket money for half an hour was more than the previous night. People in the line went in, but the long line did not shorten, but became longer. Ivan was sure that the bonus this week would explode. A car drove from a distance and stopped at the end of the line. Michael, who had a ponytail, looked at the long queue, then read the newspaper report about the Beast House Club, slapped his forehead and said, "I'm such a fool. I couldn't think of such a simple solution." Michael had to accept a sad reality. The Beast House became famous all over Atlanta, but it had nothing to do with him. He didn't get a dollar of benefit, and he had to raise money as soon as possible to make up for the $10,000 deficit. This morning, Vincent had sent someone to ask him for it, thinking that he had to sell his car and watch to pay off his debts, but the little bartender could get a $10,000 reward. Michael felt a little unbalanced, but he didn't dare to go to the Beast House to cause trouble. That group of people was not easy to mess with. Michael did not leave immediately, but observed carefully, picking up the newspaper from time to time to read. "If I'll earn it, I can also make a lot of money." Inside the club, Martin mixed a glass of daiquiri and said with a smile, "Madam, your drink." The female customer handed over the tip. "The drink is very good. You are not a dancer?" There were still customers behind. Martin smiled apologetically. "The artists in the club are all on the stage." More and more people came, and soon there were more than 200 people. Almost all the female customers who came here to have fun drank. Martin and Bruce were very busy. Martin received the tip and had no time to sort it out. He just threw it into a box under the bar. It was a little after 6:30 and the club was already full. The handsome men's group on the circular stage presented American Soldiers choreographed by the Savannah Academy of the Arts tonight. Countless small denomination US dollars flew onto the stage. If it really comes to spending power, women are much stronger than men. Hart has never found that making money is so easy. Vincent stood at the door of the office on the second floor, picked up the intercom, and notified Ivan at the door. There are too many people. Don't let any more in for the time being. The club was full of customers. Even the private rooms on the second floor were full. Vincent raised his cowboy hat. If there were enough customers, there would be more possibilities in the club's accounts. He turned his eyes to the bar and saw Martin Davis. Unexpectedly, the old bastard Jack Davis actually had such an outstanding son. Vincent waved his hand and called the accountant Dana, waste Martin Davis debt, and prepare another check for $5,000. Dana was skeptical. It's just the first night, and then. You don't understand. Vincent interrupted her. He has a lot of ideas. If he succeeds the first time, he can succeed the second time. Dana said no more and went to prepare the check. Vincent looked at the hot dance floor and the flying money and added, prepare the rewards for others together. Martin gave him a list this morning. In addition to the people in the club, there were 2 other people involved in this matter. Vincent didn't care about such trivial matters. The situation was under his control. Customers came in and out of the club, and it was always full. Late at night, the club closed. Bruce counted the drinks, recorded the accounts, and opened a small drawer, grabbing the randomly piled banknotes from it and counting them one by one. This is the first time I've received so many tips. The silly smile on his face was almost deep in his bones. $44. Martin moved his arms. Congratulations, civilized man. Enough for you to buy a bunch of autographed photos. A thick stack of banknotes fell on his palm, and Bruce said, man, you are jealous. Martin picked up a box and put it on the bar. Look carefully, old Bruce. The tips I received tonight are several times yours. The box was full of scattered $1s, $2s, and occasionally $5s. Martin continued to attack the poor civilized people. I'll tell you a terrible fact. I will soon be richer than you. Bruce was about to vomit blood and launched a sharp counterattack. What else do you have besides a good-looking appearance? Your stomach is full of swindling rubbish. Martin quickly counted the banknotes. Without my calculations, would you have tips tonight? As he was speaking, there was a burst of ghosts and wolves howling from the other side of the stage. Hart ran onto the stage with a large pile of banknotes, and the banknotes fell all the way as he ran. He ran to the center of the stage, holding a full hand of banknotes and throwing them into the sky. Green dollars fell like rain. Hart stretched out his arms, bathed in the rain of money, and shouted excitedly, kill me. A few more members of the handsome men's group ran onto the stage, scattering money crazily, and the rain of banknotes fell. The banknotes hit Hart's head, and Hart fell down with a thud and couldn't get up. Tired, Hart squirmed like a maggot, with his green hair on top, and looked at Martin. Please let me call you daddy. Get out. Martin cruelly refused. I don't want a stupid son. Hart cried, you can't do this. There must be equality between men and women. Equality between men and women. Martin Davis, you bastard. Martin saw Ivan and the golden retriever coming over and said, I'm holding a backyard party at home on Wednesday. Vincent came out of the office on the second floor at this time and shouted downstairs, Martin. Martin went upstairs and entered the office. Boss. Vincent pushed a check and an IOU to him across the desk. I have crossed out the $7,000 debt for you, and this is a $5,000 bonus. Starting tonight, your hourly wage will be increased to $16. Thank you for your generosity. Martin didn't mind saying a few more nice words. You are a good boss. Vincent gave him 2 more checks. This was the hiring fee Martin asked for Elena and Monica. Martin put it away and politely invited Vincent to the party. Vincent declined and said, keep using your intelligence and talents. as long as it's beneficial to the club. I'll never be stingy with rewards. Martin said, boss, we are now holding on to the ATL Freedom Club to stabilize the flow of guests. Vincent nodded. Leave it to you. Martin felt relieved when he went downstairs. The loan shark problem was completely solved. Chapter 20 Ceiling Level. In the morning, Martin came back from his routine exercise and went to the Carter's house to eat. As soon as he arrived at the gate of the yard, he heard a quarrel coming from the open door. I'm the father of you useless people. Scott Carter's voice was like a truck horn. If I don't have money, who else should I go to if not you bastards? Should I go to your damn mother? Harris, don't hide like a coward. You used your cassette last time, and you still owe me $20. Harris said, I didn't use your cassette. I definitely don't owe you money. Here is $10. Elena slapped the $10 on the table and said coldly, you can leave now. Scott took the money and turned around. When he went out, he saw Martin. His momentum, which was suppressed by Elena, instantly rose. Asshole, I heard that you made money and bought a car. When will you pay me back the money you owe me? Martin was puzzled. Are you crazy? Elena came out of the door and punched the door. Scott hurried away, saying as he walked, how could I raise such a bunch of rubbish like you? Elena turned back and pretended not to hear. Martin was thick-skinned and didn't feel embarrassed at all, so he followed him in to have breakfast. Hall came over and suggested, you should break his nose. Martin sat at the dining table and said, he's your father. If I beat him up, he will take the initiative to find a children's agency and send you and Lily to foster care. Guess what will happen? Hall was silent. Lily replied, we will never see you again. Shut up. Elena yelled, come and have breakfast. After breakfast, Lily and Hall, a pair of idiots, went to school, and Harris went back to his room to review his homework. Elena put away the table and pointed at Martin's neck. Are you hurt? Martin shrugged. Someone scratched me. He took out a check and handed it over. Your award. Elena saw the number on it, and her eyebrows flew up. $800. Wow, it's a lot. Martin handed another check to Elena. This $200 is for Monica. Don't tell her the number you got. By the way, I plan to have a backyard party on Wednesday afternoon to celebrate. I invited a few friends and colleagues. You can invite more friends to come. Elena responded, no problem. I promise to find a group of activists for you. She packed up, put on a bag, and asked, is it okay now? Take me to the supermarket. Martin took out the car keys and drove to the backyard next door. Not far out of the community, passing a lottery store, Elena stopped and wanted to buy a lottery ticket. Is it okay for you? She asked. Martin took out the money and handed it over. Choose whatever you want. Elena quickly bought a lottery ticket and handed the ticket to Martin. I hope you have shit luck. Martin put it away and asked, do you keep buying it? Elena carefully put away the ticket. In the Carter family's situation, the only possibility of getting better is to win the lottery jackpot. She suddenly looked tired. I also want the idiot Harris to go to a good university, and I want the idiot Lily and the waste hall to go to private school, but what can I do? I don't know anything. Martin drove the car, thought for a while, and said, learn a skill and find a job with a stable income. If you want to learn, I can teach you how to make drinks. Elena lacked confidence. I'm stupid. Martin encouraged. I'm not smart either. Yes. Elena realized, if an idiot like you can learn it, I can definitely do it. Martin sent Elena off, considered the things needed for the party, and went to the supermarket to buy some. Then he found Kelly Gray's business card, went to the Merita library, used the public computer, and checked the relevant information on the internet. Gray Film and Television Company has an official website. Kelly Gray is 31 years old and comes from a wealthy family. Her Gray Film and Television production company is not very large, but it cooperates with many cable TV stations. In addition, after graduating from USC, Kelly Gray worked in Hollywood for 4 years. As for the people Martin really has a connection with, Kelly Gray is at the top level. Martin's personal experience tells him that connections are the key to success. Martin certainly would not let go of the good first contact with Kelly Gray. When he got home, he found an excuse, thought about it, and called Kelly Gray. Martin first introduced himself and invited Kelly Gray to come to the club when she had time. Chapter 21, Cutting the Boss's Leaks. It was another night when my hands cramped from counting tips. Bruce grabbed the small denomination dollars in his hand and said, "I'm planning to buy a new car." Martin flipped over the box and dumped out the money inside. The $1 and $2 bills were piled up like a small mountain. He counted the coins and said, "Shouldn't civilized people buy autographed photos? You still owe me a lot of autographed photos." Bruce reminded him specifically and then asked, "How long can this income last?" Martin tied up the stack of dollars with a rubber band and said, "The tip income is unstable and depends on the flow of customers." Bruce asked, "Can you maintain the hot flow of customers for a long time?" Martin deliberately changed the subject. "Hey, man, do you think I'm God?" Bruce said, "God is an old black man. Are you sure you want to be God?" "Forget it. I would rather suffer in the world." Martin put away the 3 bundles of money, put them in his bag, and arranged his gun bag so that he could draw his gun at any time. Bruce also put on his coat and went out and went home together. When Martin got in the car, he shouted to Bruce, "Don't forget the party tomorrow afternoon." Bruce waved his hand, started the car and left. The Ford car stopped where it was. Martin sat in the car and threw a piece of gum into his mouth, chewing and thinking. In fact, he had considered Bruce's question. But the customer flow had just increased, and the boss Vincent was full of satisfaction, no longer as urgent as before. Even if Martin brought it up, there would not be much return. It is necessary to wait. Cutting the boss's leaks requires methods and ways. The next morning, Martin went to the Merita Theater first, brushed his presence in front of the director Jerome, and asked Jerome, who claimed to have superb acting skills, for a few performance problems, which made the director feel satisfied with guiding the rookie. "Of course, the focus is not these. Captain, I can solve the basic living problems." Martin wanted the creditor to remember that this bastard still owed you money. He took the initiative to promise, "I will pay back the overdue dues as soon as possible." Jerome had a friend who lent him $200 more than a year ago and never mentioned paying it back. He was very satisfied with Martin's attitude and said, "Keep your phone open next week. I have contacted a play that also belongs to Grey Company." Martin said, "You can call me anytime." When he came out, Martin asked for the Entertainment Weekly that Jerome had just finished reading. He would give it to Bruce later. Martin went to the supermarket to buy some fresh fruits and vegetables to prepare for the afternoon party. The 4 Carter brothers and sisters came to help. The barbecue grill was set up, and cheap beer, whiskey and rum were placed on the table. Elena made a large bowl of vegetable salad. Lillian Hall simply leveled the land in the backyard. Harris, with one arm hanging, fiddled with the sound system rented by Martin, preparing to be a DJ. Martin specially marked out a place. "This is a dance floor. Let's dance together." Elena said. I asked. "The neighbors go out to work during the day, so they won't attract APD." Because Martin was going to the Beast House in the evening, the party started at 2:30 p.m. Monica brought a dozen young girls, all poor girls from the nearby community. Several people who Harris had tutored also came. There were quite a few of them, and it was noisy. When the two followed Hall to another place, Martin asked, "How did you invite them?" "Customers." Harris said, "If they are happy, they will continue to let me tutor and introduce me to new students who need tutoring. I charge by the hour, and I can make a lot of money." Martin nodded. Making money, not bad. Bruce, Ivan, Golden Retriever, Hart and others came at this time. Martin went to greet them. Unlike the girls, they all brought gifts more or less. Seeing the crowd in the backyard, Ivan was too lazy to say more to Martin and strode into the crowd and started dancing wildly. Before Bruce could say anything, he was pulled away by the plump Monica. Martin turned on the stereo, and as the music sounded, glasses of beer, whiskey and rum were picked up by the crowd. Alcohol stirred up the emotions, and the handsome guys and hot girls danced passionately. There were so many people and the footsteps were chaotic. The ground seemed to be shaking, and the soil in the backyard was stepped on more firmly. A simple party can also be exciting. Martin drank a few glasses of wine, mixed in with the crowd, and danced for a while, then went back to the grill to be a chef. I have played outdoor self-service barbecue before, so simple barbecue is not a problem. Elena played for a while and came to help. After the first batch was grilled, Harris pulled all over and took some to give to Harris students. There were many people and few grills, so the barbecue speed was inevitably slow. Hart yelled, "Boss Martin, you're too slow. There's not enough food." Martin pointed to the long table in the yard and said, "All you can drink is beer." Elena came over and said, "You overestimated your grilling speed. There's not enough food." Martin said, "Call Rosario BBQ and ask them to send some food as soon as possible." Elena nodded and picked up her phone to make a call. Bruce got rid of Monica's entanglement and ran over to grill with Martin. "You are a good griller. At least you can make people eat it. I thought you would grill it into poison." Martin turned the skewers of meat. "Old Bruce, to tell you the truth, I'm the most versatile person in Atlanta. Yes, the best braggart." Bruce's usual sarcasm. "Don't say Atlanta. There are people who brag better than you in the whole state of Georgia." Martin added some charcoal to the grill. "I'm also good at grilling civilized people." Elena finished the call and came over and said, "Shall I try the cocktail?" Martin agreed. "Sure, it's a good opportunity for them to taste it. It would be a pity not to use so many people as experimental guinea pigs." Elena called Monica over and the two of them went next door and moved a variety of base liquors, ice cubes, and raw materials. The oven was temporarily handed over to Bruce and Martin helped Elena prepare the raw materials. Elena shouted a few times and began to experiment with cocktails, mixing several common cocktails. Perhaps because she was influenced by the Carter's alcohol since she was a child. Elena has a good talent in this area. Of course, the wine mixed by beginners is bound to taste strange. Everyone at the party became a test subject, but no one cares as long as it's fun enough. During this time, some men and women said goodbye and left, such as Monica dragged Bruce away. Adult men and women, it's common. It was almost 6 o'clock in the evening, and the party broke up. Many people drank too much, and the backyard was a mess. Martin took Elena to the club. "I'll take you out to play." He pointed to the backyard and said to the two minors and the disabled, "Idiots, clean up. When I come back, if there is still garbage here, I will dig a hole and bury you. Believe me, I can do it." 10,000 collections. Thank you for your support. I beg you to click on the new chapters every day. Reading is the only criterion for whether you can advance to the next round of recommendations. Thank you ZZZs and Milo Leader. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. Die with Unclosed Eyes. The new weekend came in May. The flow of customers in the Beast House stabilized. The Handsome Men's group continued to recruit and add many new members. Martin did not join because he won. Martin had no psychological barriers to Hart's profession, but the effort should be proportional to the reward. $100 a dance song? The tips for a night as a bartender are more than this. On Saturday night, Martin waited for the person he wanted to meet. Kelly Gray was watching a Tarzan at the circular stage, throwing a pile of tips and looking over to the bar. Martin was mixing drinks and took the time to wave at her and continued to work. After sending away 2 female customers and throwing the tips into the cardboard box at his feet, Martin winked at Bruce and walked over. Kelly Gray's short hair was dyed flaxen, and the trendy dress made her look a few years younger. At this moment, she sat on a high chair, tapping the bar with her fingers and looking at Martin. She had just watched the male dancers' performance and felt that Martin Davis was more suitable for the circular stage. "Are you a bartender?" Kelly Gray was puzzled. Martin smiled and said, "Manager and bartender. There are too many customers recently, so I'm too busy." Kelly Gray said, "It's nice here. I found the atmosphere of Los Angeles. This is what we like, and what we are striving for, isn't it?" Martin put himself and the other party on the same side in his words. He was prepared. "Have a drink." Kelly Gray said, "I have a very picky taste." Martin cleaned his hands and took out a new cocktail shaker, a cocktail that you can't get in Atlanta. He added ice cubes, lemon juice, Aperol, Havana, and finally bourbon whiskey, shook the cocktail shaker quickly and vigorously for 10 seconds, took out the chilled wine glass, and poured the wine into it, and then clamped a delicately folded paper airplane on the mouth of the glass as a decoration. The bright orange wine looked like a work of art. Martin made a gesture of invitation. "Paper plane, please try it." Kelly Gray picked it up and tasted it slowly. After a while, she said, "I'm sure I've never drunk it." Martin asked, "You have tasted a lot of cocktails." "I stayed in Los Angeles for a few years and met a good friend who is an alcoholic." Kelly Gray said casually, "I have tasted a lot of wine with her." She raised her glass slightly to Martin. "It's a very special wine. I like it." Martin replied, "It's Milner." A female customer came over and asked, "Aren't you a dancer? Don't you dance on stage?" "Sorry, I'm not." Martin answered politely. Martin turned around and found that Kelly Gray couldn't help laughing. He shrugged and said, "There's nothing we can do. Every night there are people who misunderstand, and there are always people who have fantasies." Kelly Gray asked, "Drag you onto the stage?" "Yeah." Martin looked helpless. "You are born with two good conditions. It's easy to be misunderstood. Do you want to be a dancer just because you look good? Prejudice hurts people." Kelly Gray has been in a good mood these days, and she is in an even better mood now. She raised her eyebrows and said, "You are really good looking. If you were a dancer, I would invite you to dance with me." Martin deliberately joked, "I won't give you a free meal." Kelly Gray took another sip of the bright orange cocktail and looked around. "Your club is good." Martin told the truth. "I'm just a manager. The boss is someone else." Kelly Gray suddenly asked, "You don't have male customers here, right? How do you know Andrew?" She looked straight at Martin, and Martin responded calmly, "I'm still an actor." Kelly Gray smiled. "You have so many identities. Poor guy, multiple jobs and multiple incomes." Martin would not be stupid enough to lie about such a thing. "I'm a member of the Merita Community Theater. I joined the crew when I was 16. I participated in the filming of a plantation play a while ago. Andrew was the casting assistant, and he happened to choose me to play a corpse. He and I got along well, and after chatting for a while, Andrew mentioned the Freedom Society and asked us to pay more attention and call him anytime if there is any situation." Kelly Gray had learned about it from Ella and found nothing wrong. She said, "This is a play I packaged and invested in." "You invested in it?" Martin asked. "Ms. Gray, can I tell the truth?" "Please go ahead." "This play is really bad. The role of the bartender and actor he is currently playing must show personality at the appropriate time to leave an impression on people. Martin knows this very well. After the hero saves the beauty, it is really terrible to have the two main characters declare their love in front of two corpses." Kelly Gray laughed again. "If I'm not mistaken, you are one of the corpses?" Martin said righteously, "The most handsome and also the most aggrieved corpse in history. I'm lying on the ground with my eyes open." "You guy." Kelly Gray laughed again. "No one has talked to me like this for a long time." She took out $10 and put it on the bar. "Paper plane is on you. I'll pay the tip." Martin took the lead. "This drink is worth $10. Kelly Gray added, "And there is also the chat part." The two chatted for a while, and Kelly Gray got to the point. "Tomorrow you contact my assistant and meet with a lawyer." On Monday, the Liberty Association convened a press conference, and the Beast House Club was part of it. "You will file a lawsuit against the Methodist Association on behalf of the Beast House." Martin had already earned Vincent's consent and said, "No problem." Kelly Gray stood up. "The club is doing well." Leaving the club and getting on the back seat of the BMW, she took out her mobile phone and dialed a number in Los Angeles. "Good evening, Drunkard Louise. It's me, Kelly. Today I discovered a cocktail I've never seen before, called Paper Plane, and you haven't heard of it? Aren't you coming to Atlanta with the crew in a while? I'll take you to taste it." Behind the bar of the club, the civilized man finally freed himself from the busyness. He found Martin. "Man, no wonder Hart wants to call you dad." Martin quickly denied. "Don't slander me. I don't have a son." On Sunday morning, Martin met with a lawyer of the Liberty Association on behalf of the club and attended the Liberty Association press conference on Monday. Chapter 23 The Key to Audition Success. The press conference was held in the lobby of the ATL Free Association headquarters. Martin rushed there early in the morning and contacted Kelly Gray's assistant Ella, who took him to the large conference room near the lobby. Many people, including Kelly Gray, were busy. Martin saw his acquaintance Andrew among the people doing odd jobs. Thinking of the new play that Jerome mentioned when he went to the theater last time, Martin took the initiative to find him. If there is a chance, he will go to the theater. If there is no chance, he will create an opportunity to go to the theater. Martin greeted Andrew. "Good morning, Mr. Andrew." Andrew first looked at Martin, then looked at Ella behind Martin, and smiled very warmly. "Long time no see, my friend." Seeing the other party open his arms, Martin certainly would not refuse, and hugged him warmly. It was like an old friend. The two chatted for a while about the cooperation between the Merita Community Theater and the Gray Company, especially about Jerome's preparation to lead the theater to participate in the new play. After a while, Martin found that Kelly Gray was temporarily free and said, "I'll go over there." Andrew nodded. "You can do whatever you want." Martin found Kelly Gray and took out the speech prepared yesterday for her to review. Kelly Gray already had a very good impression of Martin, and now she was smiling even more. On the other side, Andrew watched Martin and the boss talking and laughing, thinking, they seem to have a very close relationship. Seeing Ella still there, he asked, "Does the boss know Martin?" Ella said casually, "The boss admires Martin very much." So, Andrew found that things were just as Ella said. The lawyer of the Freedom Association took over the lawsuit of the Beast House. The boss and Martin kept communicating, and even smiled several times more than usual. After the press conference, Andrew found a chance to get closer, and heard Martin invite the boss to go to the Beast House again. The boss agreed. In addition, Martin also praised what he did for the Freedom Association in front of the boss. Kelly Gray praised Andrew a few words. Andrew was about to float. Martin left the Freedom Association, got in the car and called Jerome. There were some things he couldn't talk about directly, and there was no room for easing once a disagreement arose. He said to Jerome, "Captain, I attended a press conference of the Freedom Society this morning and met Mr. Andrew. I talked to him about the new play of our troupe and Gray Company. He said in general that many roles in the new crew were short of people, so it would be best to make a move as soon as possible." Jerome said, "I'll call him right away." Andrew had just returned to Gray Film and Television Production Company when he received a call from Jerome. Jerome felt that Andrew was much more enthusiastic than before. During the period, he mentioned Martin several times, which reminded him of the debt owed by the idiot Martin again. He simply said, "Can you help Martin find a role with a higher salary?" This was the same as Andrew's thought. There are several supporting roles that have not yet been determined. I will call Martin later. Andrew was very active and turned on the computer to check the real-time progress of the project. Gray Company signed a package contract with the cable TV station, and there was more than one late-night play in the contract. In recent years, Gray Company has been familiar with assembly line production, low cost and high speed. After the filming of the previous film was completed, it was transferred to the post-production department for editing and production, and the crew continued to shoot the next one. Most of the time, the company used the same male lead, Adam Smith, who had a good appeal among the female users of the cable station, and could guarantee the lower limit of the ratings. The female lead, and the male and female supporting roles had also been decided, but the actors for several minor supporting roles were still being selected. Andrew chose a role, and stood up, and knocked on the door of the casting director Lynn's office. "Boss, can I recommend someone for the role of Billy?" It was just a small role with a few lines. Lynn didn't even raise his head and said, "Tell him to come for an audition tomorrow afternoon." Andrew returned to his office and called Martin as soon as possible. Martin took the initiative to invite him to have lunch together. "I haven't formally thanked you for your help last time. You must give me a chance today." Andrew couldn't refuse. Martin specifically chose a high-end restaurant in the city center. When it's time to invest, he won't be stingy. Unlike Los Angeles, the most prosperous area in Atlanta is in the city center. At noon, the two met at a restaurant near Peachtree Plaza. During lunch, Andrew gave a general description of the role. Martin remembered it one by one. As long as your basic acting skills are good, your appearance will definitely pass. Andrew elaborated, the late night dramas produced by the company tend to be aesthetically pleasing, and the main audience is women, so the appearance requirements for male actors are relatively high. Martin nodded. I understand. Andrew asked the key question, can you accept the role? Martin smiled and said, no problem. Hollywood NC-17 films are more explicit than this. I participated in the last shooting and have a general idea. It's better to win the Golden Lion and Golden Palm. The production model is like the grindhouse movies of the past. This type of film has not completely disappeared and is also progressing with the times. More than half of the films that cannot enter theaters in North America each year. Martin is not opposed to this. If you are at the bottom of American society and are not bold enough and thick-skinned enough, how can you talk about making big money and crossing classes? Andrew agreed. We are shooting an art film, but it will not be shown in theaters, but directly broadcast on cable TV. Martin toasted Andrew, chatted about the Freedom Club, and then asked, can the casting director decide on this role? Andrew said, casting director Lynn can decide on the candidate. Martin asked, does Lynn have any special preferences? Special preferences? Andrew thought for a while and said, he is a diehard fan of the Atlanta Braves. Martin knew that the Atlanta Braves, a member of the MLB, played at Turner Field in Marietta. A lunch, including a bottle of good wine, cost Martin 2 nights' income. Martin's investment was not just this. After sending Andrew away, he went to the flea market. Grey Film and Television Production Company was quite busy this afternoon, with many young actors coming in and out. Casting director Lynn and assistant Andrew sat in the audition room, interviewing some supporting actors. The audition was very fast, and there was no styling at all. Lynn looked at the actor's appearance through the camera, and then asked him to make a few cool expressions, and say a few lines. After 2 or 3 minutes, he sent the person away. Let the actor who auditioned for Billy come in. Andrew looked at the list and said, Martin Davis. A female assistant opened the door, and shouted to the outside, Martin Davis. When the man came in, the slightly tired Lynn was slightly refreshed. This young man had a good face and a good figure. He looked at him through the camera and found him very photogenic. The main reason was that he gave him a good first impression. The young man was wearing a half-worn Warriors jacket and a blue baseball cap with a letter A on the edge, which was slightly worn and placed on the table beside him. Lynn took a quick glance and knew that the other party often wore it. With an outstanding image and impeccable short performance, Lynn sent Martin away and asked Andrew, is this the person you recommended? Andrew said, it's him. Lynn made a decision. Let's go with him. Then he said to the female assistant, for the role of Billy, send everyone else away. Don't waste their time. The key to the success or failure of an audition is mostly not in the audition room. Chapter 24. Intense action scenes. The new film was still shot on the same farm, but it was moved from the plantation to the breeding area. The title is temporarily called The Man from the City. The script and story are not kept secret, not to mention the main actors. Even most of the extras know it. A young man and woman came to the ranch from downtown Atlanta and had a fierce emotional collision with several young men and women on the ranch. The supporting role played by Martin is one of the ranch dogs and men. The daily salary is $500, and the role shooting is planned for 2 days. There are only 3 male actors in the crew who have more scenes than Martin. Martin and the second male supporting actor Kyle share a small dressing room. Kyle is strong, less than 25 years old, and his square face is like a stone. He came a little later and saw that Martin was a stranger. He knocked hard on the dressing room opposite Martin and said, "Hey, man, I like to sit near the door, you go inside." The other party is in the same dressing room as him, which means that their status is similar. Martin has no intention of giving in. First come, first served. Bullying is too common in America, especially this. Kyle is not small. Kyle stared at Martin's head. "Do you know what I did before? A professional English football player. I could kick a football to pieces." Martin followed Bruce to learn to be a civilized person, just to deal with similar situations. He pulled back his coat and revealed the gun bag inside in a civilized way. "I'm a part-time actor, and my main job is a scavenger." Kyle stepped aside and sat down on the MacUp chair inside and said hurriedly, "I like to make jokes to liven up the atmosphere. Look, now we have reached a consensus. The atmosphere is very good, right? Bruce's civilized person theory really worked." Martin pulled up his coat. "Don't worry, I'm a civilized person." Kyle cursed in his heart. The crew couldn't find anyone involved gangsters to film, but he put on a bright smile on his face and said sweet words. "You are the boss. Just tell me if you have anything." The MacUp team came in and prepared to put MacUp on the two people. Martin called Jerome to come over and asked him to keep the gun temporarily. Because of Martin's relationship with Andrew, the people of the Merita troupe got relatively high paid background roles this time. The news will soon spread among the extras in Atlanta. The troupe can absorb more newcomers, and Jerome will naturally get more membership fees. For the sake of money, Jerome doesn't mind being a bag carrier temporarily. After putting on MacUp and changing clothes, Martin left the dressing room first and went to the hay drying yard, which was the second shooting location, to familiarize himself with the positions and prepare for shooting. Robert, wearing a workman's outfit, was in the hayfield at this time. In the subsequent shooting, he will serve as one of Martin's background boards. How is that possible? It doesn't make sense. Robert circled around Martin. "I've asked around. Bill's role is ranked 7th in the crew. Why did the crew choose you?" Martin shrugged. "Because I'm good looking." Robert didn't believe it at all. "Don't be ridiculous. If being good looking can get key roles, there wouldn't be so many ugly stars." He pointed to his big head. "According to common sense, my chance of becoming a star is greater than yours." Martin was curious. "Why?" "Because I have a big head. A very big head." Robert was very serious. "Didn't you notice? The bigger the head of a man in the entertainment industry, the more promising he is." Martin also said seriously, "Actually, my head is bigger than yours, so I have more prospects." Robert didn't respond to him and continued, "Think about it carefully. Stallone has a big head, Bruce Willis has a big head, Russell Crowe has a big head, and Schwarzenegger also has a big head." Martin couldn't even refute it, so he simply used his expertise. "Can your head smash the earth?" Robert muttered, "The earth didn't provoke me." Martin patted him on the shoulder. "Man, for you, I decided to stay on earth. Thank you so much." Robert had to smile bitterly. Martin could see that Robert's mentality was a little unbalanced, but he could control himself, which was rare. Some extras who have suffered together for many years will do incredible things when they see their companions get good roles. The assistant director came to the set at this time and guided Martin and the supporting actress Jonah, who came to rehearse in advance. As a pure love play for women, Martin had to show his handsome face and strong body. For Martin, the play was very simple and there were almost no lines. In this scene, he only had to lie in the soft haystack to bask in the sun, and Jonah hid in the distance and peeked. After being discovered by him, she boldly came over. The rest was the emotional play. Director Benjamin Calvin was in his 30s, graduated from the Savannah School of Art, had a big beard, and was very artistic. He specifically told Martin and Jonah about the precautions. Martin was very professional. He did not eat heavy food this morning and prepared breath freshener. Before the shoot, he asked Jonah, "Is there anything to avoid?" Jonah saw Martin spraying breath freshener and was impressed by him. She smiled and said, "Go ahead." They shot the drama first. Martin was very good at the drama and got into the state quickly. On the contrary, his partner Jonah got into the state slowly and made several NGs. After the drama, he went to the trailer next door to touch up his MacUp and change into protective costumes. There were a lot of people watching during the shoot. Various film and television regulations in New York and California do not apply to the small rural crew in Atlanta. The crew is all non-performing arts union members. Not only are there no special clauses, but there is no routine procedure to ask whether the scene is cleared during the shoot. The total investment is only a few $100,000, and the shooting period is less than 10 days. The crew has no time and energy to be verbose. Martin was very good at the drama, but he made mistakes in the action scenes. In contrast, Jonah, who was not good at the drama, was very good at the action scenes. After several NGs in a row, Martin was also adjusting his state. Director Benjamin yelled, "Don't f***ing tell me you have no experience at all. Don't be nervous, relax." Jonah's eyes had a little more strange colors, and her tone was particularly soft. "Imagine me as your girlfriend, and put yourself in the picture." In the following filming, Martin's condition gradually improved, and even some of the action scenes were very cool. At the end of this scene, Benjamin couldn't help but praise Martin Davis. "This time was great. You are suitable for this job. People like Martin will shine with a little sunshine." Seeing that the director's attitude towards him has improved, he immediately went over to joke and build a relationship. "Director, am I a talent for acting? Or a talent for shooting action scenes?" Benjamin laughed and patted Martin's knife-like shoulder. "I have classmates in the Sacred Valley. If you want to go, I will introduce you." Martin said, "I'm afraid those people will never dare to shoot again." Chapter 25: An Unexpected Birth. As the sun rose, the weather became somewhat hot. Robert came to the set carrying a box of glass bottles of Coke. After finishing his work as a background artist yesterday, he asked Martin for help and found a temporary production assistant job in the crew, which always brought him extra income. Robert held the open box and turned to look at the filming set not far away. Martin was pushing hay into the stable. The role was very simple, and he could handle it easily, but there was no chance. Martin suddenly climbed up. Robert couldn't figure it out. He found out during the filming of the last play that Martin even owed dues. Jerome strongly recommended the debtor. Where is the fairness? He wanted a line but no one gave him. Robert came to the resting place under the shade of trees and parasols. According to the crew's requirements, the Coke should be placed on the table so that the staff can use it at any time. He put down the box and found a pack of tissues. When unloading, the idiot driver broke the bottle of olive oil and a lot of it fell on the Coke. Robert's ambition is to be an actor, not a handyman in the crew. Naturally, he didn't take it seriously when wiping the bottle, but just wiped it casually with the tissue. After the Coke was ready, he picked up the empty box and left to help the driver deliver the lunch materials. Almost at the same time, the lead actor Adam Smith and Kyle came out of the dressing room and walked towards the temporary resting place. The latter had a barefoot action scene to shoot, so he simply wore slippers. Adam Smith had dazzling blonde hair. He asked as he walked, "Where is Martin Davis from? I haven't seen him before." Kyle learned about his colleague who was full of polite words, the idiot from the Merita Theater. It is said that he has Andrew's connections. Adam Smith stared at that place. "This name is familiar. I seem to have seen it somewhere." A scum of the gang, he actually brought a gun to the crew and threatened me with it. Kyle encouraged, "Adam, I'm your cousin. You have to help me." Adam Smith warned, "Don't make trouble. If you didn't know how to ride a horse, the crew wouldn't use you." Kyle was dissatisfied. "You are the leading actor who supports the show and the guarantee of the film's ratings on the cable TV station. What are you afraid of? Afraid of that idiot?" Adam Smith just pretended not to hear these words. It was Kyle who had a conflict with others, not him. A minor supporting role. There is no conflict of interest with him as the leading actor. A simple-minded idiot with strong limbs, who can't even sow discord. Adam Smith saw a car at this time, a black BMW 7, and said to himself, "The boss is here." The BMW was parked in the distance, and Kelly Gray, wearing a white business suit, walked towards this side. Kyle was the first to come to the temporary rest area, saw the Coke on the table, took a straw from the box, and reached for the bottle of Coke. When his hand touched the glass bottle, the slippery grease made Kyle subconsciously retract his hand, and the Coke bottle fell and rolled off the table. The happy young man who had professionally practiced football subconsciously stretched out his foot to catch the glass bottle. The heavy bottle hit his foot, which was only wearing slippers, and a scream came out of Kyle's mouth. He sat on the ground, hugged his foot, and groaned in pain. Adam Smith rushed over from behind and asked, "What's wrong?" Kyle's face was twisted in pain. "Help me call a doctor, my foot. My foot hurts so much." Adam Smith immediately called the production staff to call a doctor. The movement here alarmed the crew and the boss Kelly Gray who were filming. The crew doctor judged that Kyle had a small bone in his foot that might be fractured or broken, so it was best to send him to the hospital immediately. Director Benjamin Calvin was furious and almost pointed at Kyle's nose and called him a slob. Kelly Gray was also very unhappy, not to mention the medical expenses caused by the actor's injury. What about his role? Kyle was sent away, and Benjamin got angry again. I carefully designed a horse scene and specially selected such an actor who can ride a horse and has decent appearance conditions. What happened? This idiot broke his foot. What should I do? What should I do? Martin stayed in the crowd outside. Kelly Gray said, don't say angry words. Solve the problem first. Benjamin suppressed his temper, thought for a while, and said, the scene shot by that idiot before was invalidated. It's a pity that the circus I carefully designed. Kelly Gray asked, can't it be given to another role? Benjamin explained, it requires a lot of panoramic shots of riding horses. How can the crew have actors who can gallop on horses? The horse has been rented, and the rent is higher than the salary of the male and female supporting actors combined. After this happened, Adam Smith couldn't speak to Kyle. He recommended Kyle, but the key to Kyle's getting the role was that he could ride a horse. Martin quietly left the rest area and found Jerome. Captain, did you see the sudden situation on the crew? Jerome said, I have been here. Martin simply said, Captain, I can actually ride a horse. You? Jerome didn't believe it. Why can you? Martin lied. My family lived in Texas for a while, and I learned it on the ranch there. Jerome had heard of Jack Davis, and he nodded in approval, but he said, don't you know Andrew? You are my captain, the captain I respect the most. I dare not make the decision on such a big matter alone. As a supporting actor who came later, he took the initiative to ask the crew for more scenes. There is something wrong with his brain. If he is not careful, he will have a bad relationship with the crew. Martin would not make such a mistake. The only one I can rely on and trust is you, the captain. Jerome patted Martin on the shoulder. Leave it to me. Martin emphasized his tone, his face full of gratitude. Captain. Jerome waved his hand, walked forward without hesitation, found Andrew, pulled him to a quiet place, and whispered. Not only for Martin, but also for his troop. After Martin got a role with weight in the crew, the number of extras who called him to join the troupe increased sharply. After the two finished discussing, Andrew saw that director Benjamin was talking to the boss Kelly, and hurried over. A chance to show his face. Andrew took the opportunity when the two bosses finished talking and interrupted. Director, one of our main actors can ride a horse. Who? Benjamin didn't want to give up the carefully designed circus. After all, the rent was spent. Andrew controlled his eyes and didn't look at his boss Kelly Gray. Martin Davis. When Kelly Gray heard the name, she immediately thought of the interesting young man and asked, Martin from the Merita Theater. Andrew said, it's him. Benjamin asked Kelly, do you know Martin? Kelly said, a very interesting friend. Thinking of that bastard, Benjamin laughed. He is indeed a very interesting actor. He said to Andrew, call Martin over and ask the trainer to bring the horse to the stables. In less than 2 minutes, Martin hurried over with Andrew. Director, I'm here. He then greeted Kelly Gray. Good morning, Kelly. Kelly Gray smiled at him. You know a lot. Martin said, poor people can only learn a little more. Kelly Gray agreed. Only those who work hard can succeed. The trainer led the horse to the stables. Martin followed the trainer's instructions, changed into professional clothes and a helmet, and got familiar with the horse for a while. With the help of the trainer, he rode slowly and walked around the stables before starting to trot. Riding a horse was something Martin learned when he was a stuntman in his previous life. He hadn't used it for a long time. Martin needed to get familiar with the horse and find his own rhythm. After running a circle, Benjamin asked, two people riding together, can you control it? Martin had a bad feeling, but he nodded. No problem. He had finally won it, so even if there were special features, he had to grit his teeth and hold on. Benjamin directly called the screenwriter at the circus to Billy. Martin's scene had already been filmed, and his salary after the additional scene increased to $800 a day because of the circus. Adam Smith was standing not far away. He heard Benjamin's words and saw Martin talking and laughing with Kelly after getting off the horse. He thought, small supporting role. The crew finished a day's work. Martin drove the Ford and took Robert, who was hitchhiking, to return to Merita. Robert suddenly said, I did something. Don't tell anyone else. Martin was curious. What is it? Robert looked at the left and right windows and lowered his voice to the lowest level. I put those cokes there. You put them there? Martin remembered that he had mentioned to Robert that he could ride a horse. Robert's face was heavy. Yes. Man, you don't have to take such a big risk for me. Martin suspected that this was not a coincidence. I just recommended you to do a temporary stage manager job, but you gave me such a big reward. Robert quickly denied. No, I didn't. Martin understood. I understand. You didn't do anything. It was that idiot who had problems with his hands and feet. It has nothing to do with you. Robert spread his hands and argued. I really didn't mean it. Really not. Why can't he explain it clearly? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.